Chapter 700. Being able to kill Qin Liang with his own hands before his death was already considered as fulfilling one of Tian Fei's wishes. Is your talent better than Gong Changhe's? Li Zhongjie looked at Tian Fei and asked. Tian Fei smiled bitterly when he heard Li Zhongjie's words. Tian Fei was just a person who wanted to cultivate, become an expert, and control his own fate. He only had such thoughts in his heart. Who would have thought that he would reach such a level and become Gong Changhe's pawn? Li Zhongjie's eyes were filled with bitterness. If he did not do so, Tian Fei's fate could be imagined. Therefore, Tian Fei had no choice but to compromise. He did not expect that he would end up like this. So what if I'm better than him? Now that my elemental pearl is broken, I'm completely a cripple. Tian Fei said bitterly. His face was ashen. Previously, he might have been blessed with a glimmer of hope, but now, anyone could easily kill him. With such a fate, it was difficult for Tian Fei to stand up again. This elixir is enough to restore your elemental pearl. Swallow it. As for your future, it's up to you. Li Zhongjie said indifferently. He casually threw out an elixir. When the Shadow Fox's elemental pearl was broken, Li Zhongjie had already thought that these people did not know how to protect their elemental pearls. Moreover, in this battle, it was extremely easy to damage their elemental pearls. Basically, these people's elemental pearls were in an unstable state. How could they stabilize their elemental pearls? Therefore, Li Zhongjie took some time to refine an elixir. This elixir's recipe had not been written yet, but in fact, this elixir's recipe to restore elemental pearls would appear out of nowhere 2,500 years later. It was said that it was directly obtained from the Genius Tower. Therefore, when this elixir's recipe appeared, it set off a lot of bloodshed. In the end, it was naturally obtained by Li Zhongjie. Moreover, the grade of this elixir was not very high. It was just a 5th grade elixir. Refining it was not a difficult task. Li Zhongjie refined a few more and gave them to Ying Hu, Tai Fai, and the others. The effect of this pill was quite good. Tian Fei took the pill. Looking at Li Zhongjie's back as he turned and left, his eyes suddenly widened. Although his cultivation was now crippled, looking at the pill in his hand, it was definitely not a low-grade pill. What is this guy trying to do? Is he trying to poison me to death? Tian Fei thought to himself. However, no matter how he looked at it, the pill in his hand did not look like a poisonous pill. It was a real spiritual pill. But what kind of medicinal pill could restore the origin pearl? Tian Fei had never heard of such a pill before. If there was one, Tian Fei would buy it even if he had to sell his entire fortune. Even if this pill could restore the origin pearl, it should not be given to him by someone who broke his origin pearl. No matter how hard Tian Fei thought about Li Zhongjie's code of conduct, he could not figure it out. He could not understand why Li Zhongjie would do such a thing. But for Tian Fei, he had nothing to lose now. In that case, there is still a little hope. If I, Tian Fei, don't die today, I will definitely fight the Xinyuan sect to the death in the future. Tian Fei immediately swallowed the elixir. Those people from the Xinyuan sect were arrogant and confident. Since they had already sent Qin Liang, they would definitely not send a second person. Therefore, Tian Fei was considered safe for the time being. The pill entered his stomach. Tian Fei immediately felt that the intestines and internal organs in his stomach were all twisted together. The intensity of the pain was thousands or even tens of thousands of times greater than when his yuan bead was shattered. Tian Fei immediately rolled around on the ground in pain. At this moment, Tian Fei was already in a delirious state. After an hour, Tian Fei, who had fainted on the ground, suddenly got up. His eyes emitted a ferocious light. Looking at his palms, there was a trace of disbelief and extreme shock in his eyes. Oh my God! My origin pearl! My origin pearl is back! Tian Fei could not believe it. But the abundant origin energy in his body was still there. Tian Fei's heart was filled with joy once again. Xinyuan sect. Gong Changhe. If I, Tian Fei, don't die today, I will definitely fight you to the death. Tian Fei roared towards the sky. Tian Fei was only missing a finger on his right palm. He, Tian Fei, would get this finger back sooner or later. After this incident, Tian Fei understood that if he wanted to survive, he had to be strong first. It was impossible to become a true expert by relying on others' help. He had to rely on his own efforts to become a true expert. Even if there were difficulties, he had to work hard to overcome them. Only in this way could he grow. Li Zongjio did not give him the pill to save him. Instead, he wanted to create another enemy for the Xianyuan sect. He wanted Tian Fei to become a thorn in the heart of the Xianyuan sect. Tian Fei searched the ground and finally found the storage ring that Li Zongjio did not take away. It belonged to Qin Liang. He opened the storage ring. Although Qin Liang's collection was not as rich as Tian Fei's, at least there were many things in it. Each and every one of you, just you wait. At this moment, Tian Fei's Yuan Pearl had just recovered and he still needed some time to recover. If he used too much Yuan power, it would be very easy for him to damage the newly recovered Yuan Pearl. He needed to stabilize it and take it slow. Therefore, Tian Fei chose to move forward on foot. Li Zongjio, I have to rely on him. Otherwise, it won't be long before the Xianyuan sect finds me. Tian Fei had already made up his mind. Li Zongjio was powerful and mysterious. Tian Fei admired him. Although it was no different from entering the tiger's den again, he had to get Li Zongjio's protection if he wanted to take revenge. Perhaps he would die faster. But there was also a chance that he could survive. This was because Tian Fei knew that Li Zongjio's strength was terrifying. Moreover, both of their enemies were the Xianyuan sect. Only by working together could they have a better chance of fighting the Xianyuan sect. After returning to the city, Li Zongjio went to the bun shop as usual. He wanted to sit down and have a meal. However, he saw Xiao Zhao walking in a hurry. Her face was gloomy as she walked past him. From the looks of it, it seemed that something had happened. Isn't that Xiao Zhao? Chapter 701. Li Zongjio didn't think much and stepped forward to catch up with Xiao Zhao. Xiao Zhao turned left and right and came to a house. Two burly men could be seen standing guard at the entrance of the house. When they saw Xiao Zhao return, the two burly men revealed smiles on their faces. Lord Xiao Zhao is back. Come in, please. However, Xiao Zhao didn't look very happy. Instead, he was expressionless. What do you want? Where's my brother? Xiao Zhao said coldly. They're all inside. Your whole family is also inside. They're just waiting for you. Although there was some distance between them, Li Zongjio could hear the conversation between the three people clearly. When Xiao Zhao walked into the house, there were at least 20 or 30 strong men standing in the courtyard. In the middle of the courtyard, a young man was kneeling on the ground. His body was tied up and his face was blue and purple. Obviously, he had been beaten up before. A middle-aged couple on the side didn't know what was going on in front of them. They were scared out of their wits. The two of them were just ordinary people in the city. Usually, they made some pearl hair clips and did business on the street. However, when they opened their stall today, their stall was directly smashed by a group of people. Then, they were directly taken back to their house by a group of people. A fat man was sitting on a shabby rattan chair. He was holding a beggar's chicken in his hand and was wolfing it down. Next to the chair was a sky stone hammer. This stone hammer light was already awe-inspiring. When it was discussed, it would be even more frightening. Just looking at it was enough to make one feel fear. Xiao Zhao looked at the situation in front of him and didn't have the slightest fear. Hey, isn't this Lord Xiao Zhao? Why are you fools still standing there? Hurry up and bring a chair for Miss Xiao Zhao to sit down. The fat and brainless man immediately shouted for a beating. He glared angrily at the group of trash around him. They only knew how to stand there and stare. Don't bother. I've brought the money. Let my brother go. Take the money and get out of here. Xiao Zhao, who had always been gentle, was now very serious. When he looked at these people, his eyes were extremely fierce and hateful. Hee, don't worry, don't worry. How much money did you bring? The fat man said with a smile. 300,000 gold coins. Xiao Zhao pulled out a stack of banknotes from his cuff. Xiao Zhao had to scrape together all this money to gather a total of 300,000 gold coins. To some people, this amount of money might be less than the meat of an ant. However, To an ordinary family like Xiao Zhao, this amount of money required a lot of effort. Moreover, it was not guaranteed that she would be able to gather this much money. 300,000? That's too little. 300,000 was last week's price. The day before yesterday, your brother lost 500,000 in my casino. Adding the 300,000 interest from before, your brother owes me a total of 1,200,000. The fat man looked like a tiger, but he was very shrewd when it came to calculating. When he said this, Xiao Zhao's eyes widened. He never thought that these people would be so excessive. Don't talk nonsense. My brother didn't gamble a single cent. Today, I'll leave the 300,000 here. Whether you want it or not, get out of here. Otherwise, I won't be polite. Xiao Zhao said angrily. These people didn't know when they started pestering his brother. In fact, Xiao Zhao knew that these people were clearly targeting the young lady. Now, they wanted him to steal the young lady's account book and next year's plan. Although he didn't know who was behind these people, Xiao Zhao would rather die than betray the young lady. Miss Xiao Zhao has been in the 7-star fire room for a long time and has interacted with many big shots. She doesn't know how barbarians like us collect debts. Come, let's see how barbaric Miss Xiao Zhao is. The fat man immediately waved his hand, and 2 figures walked out. They walked toward Xiao Zhao's hand. What do you want? When Xiao Zhao saw the 2 of them walking up, she immediately let out a cry. He didn't expect these people to really dare to make a move. The 2 people directly pounced on Xiao Zhao. Xiao Zhao turned around and wanted to escape, but the few big men blocked his way. Come here, you stinking girl. Do you really think you're high and mighty? A big man approached and directly came in front of Xiao Zhao. Then he grabbed Xiao Zhao's white and tender throat. However, before he could touch Xiao Zhao, he heard the crisp sound of his own bones. Crack. The hand that reached out was directly flipped over at a 90-degree angle. The 5 fingers suddenly lost contact with each other and just hung on the palm. You're courting death. When the other person saw the miserable state of his companion and saw that another person had suddenly appeared beside Xiao Zhao, he immediately let out a low roar and flew up, kicking out with his leg. Bang! An invisible force blasted his thigh and directly made the big man kneel on the ground with a bang. His broken thigh seemed to have fallen to the ground. It was really frightening to look at. What kind of pain would a broken bone of this degree have to endure? Xiao Zhao did not expect such a situation to occur. When he looked around, a familiar face appeared in front of Xiao Zhao. Young Master Li! Xiao Zhao exclaimed in surprise. The person who came was Li Zongjio. When he saw that these people were about to make a move, Li Zongjio could no longer sit still. In any case, Xiao Zhao was one of his friends. How could these people casually hurt him? Who are you? How dare you mess with me, Sang Biao? The big fat man immediately stood up. At this moment, the thugs beside him also gathered and surrounded Li Zongjio and the rest. Their futures were raging and it seemed as though they would tear the people in front of them to shreds in the next second. When he saw the miserable state of his 2 brothers, the one called Sang Biao could not help but feel a little nervous. The people who came seemed to be quite powerful. I'll give you all 1 minute to scram. Li Zongjio patted Xiao Zhao's shoulder, indicating for the latter to relax. Then, he walked out with his hands behind his back and looked at the people in front of him as he said in an extremely benevolent manner. As a manifestation of his benevolence, he gave these people enough time to leave. If they did not know how to cherish the time, they could not blame Li Zongjio for being vicious. Oh my, I didn't expect such a stubborn lover to show up. Go kill this kid. Whoever takes his head will be rewarded with 5,000 gold yuan. Chapter 702. Generous rewards would definitely attract brave men. With Sang Biao's words, the crowd below instantly erupted in excitement. In an instant, all of them pounced towards Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio's body did not move. With just a thought, his mental energy whizzed out. Boom! Li Zongjio's mental energy immediately transformed into a terrifying long whip and spread out in all directions. Pa pa pa! All of them were easily sent flying. When he saw Li Zongjio's incomparably mysterious technique, Sang Biao was completely stunned. What the fuck? What the fuck? However, Sang Biao was a ruthless person. He immediately raised the stone hammer in his hand and violently swung it towards Li Zongjio. Then, he turned around and climbed towards the wall at the side. Evidently, he wanted to escape. Li Zongjio gently gestured with his palm, causing the stone hammer to change its direction and head towards Sang Biao, who had already climbed up the wall. With a bang, Sang Biao was directly knocked down from the wall. After all, Li Zongjio was much more peaceful now. Therefore, when he attacked, he did not kill anyone. Those who had recovered from the ground and crawled up quickly fled into the distance. Without a doubt, this Li Zongjio was clearly a legendary elite. He could easily crush them to death with just a flick of his finger. The two of you stay behind. The courtyard was not big to begin with. With so many people, it was a little crowded. Li Zongjio let most of the people leave and then chose 2 people to stay behind. The 2 of them instantly looked aggrieved. They thought that Li Zongjio was not satisfied with the fight just now and wanted to kill 1 or 2 of them to sacrifice to the heavens. On the spot, their faces collapsed. When they looked at Li Zongjio, their faces were also filled with grievances. Great hero, please spare our lives, tie that fatty up. Li Zongjio pointed at the unconscious Sang Biao. Then, with a wave of his hand, an invisible energy surged and cut the rope on Xiao Zhao's brother. Brother, are you all right? Xiao Zhao also hurriedly went forward to help her brother up. His parents also gathered around. They were held hostage just now and did not know what to do. If they were not as strong as the other party, then they could only resign themselves to fate. Fortunately, Li Zongjio was here today and saved Xiao Zhao's family. Logically speaking, this Xiao Zhao was Song Jiyu's right-hand man. These little punks only needed to talk to Song Jiyu, and naturally, there would be someone to deal with them. He didn't know what this Xiao Zhao was thinking. The 2 burly men finally found a rope and tied Sang Biao up. Following Li Zongjio's instructions, a basin of water was splashed onto Sang Biao's face. He woke Sang Biao up. How can you be called Sang Biao when you look like this? Li Zongjio looked at Sang Biao's round body. What was wrong with this world? Sang Biao had just woken up and did not understand what was going on. Father, mother, brother, this is Li Zongjio, young Master Li, whom I told you about. Xiao Zhao introduced. Xiao Zhao's parents were about to kneel down and thank Li Zongjio for saving their lives. Li Zongjio gestured with his hands and lifted the 2 of them up. No need to be so courteous. In the future, if something like this happens, you can just go to Boyu Casino and look for Tai-Fi. Just tell him that I asked you to come. Li Zongjio waved his hand and said, with Tai-Fi's strength, it was naturally easy for him to deal with these people. How can I trouble Sir Tai for such a vulgar matter? Xiao Zhao said with shame. He did not expect that such a matter would disturb someone like Li Zongjio. According to the young mistress, Li Zongjio's status had already risen to the same level as the Song family head. Hence, how could Xiao Zhao dare to trouble Li Zongjio's subordinates with such a matter? You don't have to say such nonsense. Li Zongjio waved his hand. You, damn fatty, I'll give you a chance. Tell me the mastermind behind this and bring me to him. Then I'll let you go. Li Zongjio said. Sang Biao heard this and was instantly energized. When Sang Biao woke up, he realized that he had been tied up. It had always been him, Sang Biao, who tied people up. Since when was it anyone else's turn to tie him up? A warrior would rather be killed than humiliated. On the spot, Sang Biao stared deadly at Li Zongjio. Kid, don't think that you can do whatever you want in Royal City just because you have some skills. If you dare to touch me, Sang Biao, I'll call a few hundred of my brothers to chop you to death. Sang Biao roared. His aura sounded real. If not for the fact that this guy was tied up, one would think that Sang Biao was invincible. Slap. Li Zongjio slapped Sang Biao's face across the air. Instantly, Sang Biao's face flushed red. Because his face was fat to begin with, he did not react to the slap at all. The only thing that could be seen was that his face was slightly swollen. How dare you hit me? How dare you fucking hit me? Sang Biao used to be an extremely ruthless person. Later on, because of his ruthlessness, he became the boss. Then, he no longer needed to fight and his living conditions improved. Hence, he gradually grew into his current chubby appearance. However, his ferocious character was getting more and more arrogant by the day. Slap. Another slap landed directly on Sang Biao's face. This time around, a tooth flew out. Most importantly, this slap landed on the same spot. Sang Biao's heart was in so much pain. If you still refuse to speak, I'll have no choice but to kill you. Li Zongjio did not have much patience. Immediately, he stretched out his hand and grabbed the stone hammer across the air. In Sang Biao's eyes, this ability to grab things across the air was way too amazing. Speaking of experts, Sang Biao had seen his fair share of them. However, looking at Li Zongjio's various methods, he knew that they were not as simple as they seemed. If he continued to endure, then the one who would die would be him. Don't. Sir, I was wrong. I'll speak. Li Zongjio had yet to hammer down and Sang Biao was already begging for mercy. He was just short of kneeling on the ground and kowtowing to Li Zongjio to admit his mistake. It's the crocodile gang. It's the leader of the crocodile gang who told us to do this. Our casino is also under the control of the crocodile gang. As for the other things, I really don't know. Sang Biao closed his eyes and shouted loudly. He was afraid that the hammer would land on his head. If that happened, wouldn't his head be as big as a watermelon? Crocodile gang? Li Zongjio controlled the stone hammer and with a bang, it landed on Sang Biao's feet. Sang Biao immediately burst into tears. Previously, Li Zongjio had never heard of the crocodile gang. There was the Green Dragon gang, but the Green Dragon gang had already been wiped out by Li Zongjio. Where did this crocodile gang come from? They were causing trouble here, and even did such illegal things. If Li Zongjio saw them, he would definitely teach them a lesson. I'll leave the matters of these gangs to Taifai. Li Zongjio didn't have that much time. In the past, he didn't have any subordinates, so he had to do everything himself. But now, it was different. Li Zongjio immediately used the 1,000-mile sound transmission. This 1,000-mile sound transmission was a Yuan Qi item that could communicate across space. However, the range was quite limited. Li Zongjio glanced at it. Coincidentally, Taifai wasn't too far away. The 1,000-mile sound transmission quickly conveyed Li Zongjio's words. At this moment, Taifai was having a headache calculating the accounts. Suddenly, he heard Li Zongjio calling for him. Li Zongjio also asked him to bring more people to deal with the matter. He immediately tensed up. Bring more people? How many people do you want? Taifai frowned. Then he immediately issued an order for the people nearby to rush to the location that Li Zongjio had mentioned. As for the number of people, there were at least 1,000. The main experts were also brought over from Bo Yu Casino. Coincidentally, the casino wasn't open during the day. Instantly, this large group of people rushed to Li Zongjio's location. Chapter 703. Brat, so what if you know? Do you dare to touch the crocodile gang? This is between us and them. It has nothing to do with you. If you let us go now. Slap. Li Zongjio slapped him in the face and he finally calmed down a little. At this moment, Xiao Zhao also lifted his skirt and went forward. Young Master Li, the crocodile gang is big and there are people behind them. I will report this matter to Mississippi. Why don't young Master Li leave first? Xiao Zhao was also worried that Li Zongjio would be implicated. Although he knew that Li Zongjio was powerful, so powerful that even Han Wuxiu had to kneel down before him, these people were after all people of the Jianghu. If they fought, it would be a life-and-death battle. He couldn't let his guard down. He must be careful. What's more, this was Xiao Zhao's family matter. How could he let Li Zongjio take the blame for this matter? This made Xiao Zhao feel even more apologetic in her heart. It's okay, just wait for a while. It took less than 10 minutes. Someone had already arrived in front of Li Zongjio. Young master. Li Zongjio didn't know these people, but Taifai did a good job of popularizing people. Everyone knew Li Zongjio and knew who their real boss was. Young master. We're late. After waiting for a while, Taifai also quickly arrived with his men. Up until now, the people that Tai Feihe had brought had already filled up several streets in the surrounding area. Those who were able to enter this small courtyard and meet Li Zongjio were all people with some status. The rest of the underlings could only wait outside. These people were very unique when they waited. They all had their own matters to attend to and looked no different from people who were just strolling around. The Holy Flame Royal City abhorred violence to the core. If anyone were to use force in the city, or if there were any violent incidents, they would be treated with great importance. No one would be able to escape. At the very least, they would have to pay some compensation. That was why these people had such a disguise, which was extremely convenient and fast. You're here. This guy's boss is from the Crocodile Gang. He wants to deal with my friend. Do as you see fit. Li Zongjio pointed at the trussed-up Sang Biao. At this moment, there were two other people who were squatting beside Sang Biao in jealousy and grievance. The scene before them was enough to scare them silly. They weren't familiar with Tai-Fi, but the 5 people behind Tai-Fi were the street bullies of the nearby 5 streets. The whole street was under their care, and all the shops could open smoothly. The punks from outside couldn't get a word in here. Now, these 5 bosses were standing respectfully behind Tai-Fi. As for that Tai-Fi, he was extremely humble in front of Li Zongjio. This was the most shocking part. Just which family did this Li Zongjio belong to? He actually had such power. One must know that Sang Biao's position was at most one of the leaders under the 5 big shots. Any one of these 5 bosses could be compared to the Crocodile Gang's leader. You guys have some guts. How dare you cause trouble in my Tai-Fi's territory? Tai-Fi said coldly as he came in front of Sang Biao and the other 2. Tai-Fi. When the 3 of them heard Tai-Fi's name, their eyes widened. It was as though they had seen a dead person come back to life. It was the kind of shock that belonged to them. It really was Tai-Fi. Currently, in this Holy Flame Royal City, as long as one was in the underworld, who did not know of this Tai-Fi's name. This Tai-Fi could be said to have used ruthless means to unify all the underground forces and become part of the sacred Flame Royal City's underground world. Tai-Fi basically monopolized half of it. There was no one who could go against him. Moreover, Tai-Fi was also very smart. He didn't directly take down the other half. Instead, he chased all the mixed forces of the tribes into the remaining half. Once someone wanted to rule over this half, Tai-Fi would naturally jump out and stop this peaceful and stable situation. It could be said that the underground forces were basically under the control of Tai-Fi. It was not easy for a person to be able to reach this level and live until now. People like Sang Biao were basically local hooligans. When would they have the chance to meet Tai-Fi? You are Tai-Fi? The 3 of them were already stuttering to the point that they couldn't speak. Take them away. The 2 of you, bring the leader of the Crocodile Gang to me. Tai-Fi pointed at the 2 of them. These 2 people were in charge of the streets that often dealt with the Crocodile Gang. Therefore, they were naturally familiar with the situation of the Crocodile Gang. At this moment, after receiving the order, they immediately cupped their hands and left. If you have any problems in the future, just tell him directly. This is my friend Xiao Zhao. Li Zongjio said to Tai-Fi. Tai-Fi immediately bowed to Xiao Zhao. If Miss Xiao Zhao has any problems, just let me know. Tai-Fi said, Lord Tai, I can't accept this. Xiao Zhao quickly said. She was just an assistant by Song Jiyu's side. How could she accept Tai-Fi's bow? Such politeness naturally made Xiao Zhao unable to accept it. She quickly helped Tai-Fi up. Then I'll take my leave first. This matter must be handled properly. Li Zongjio said to Tai-Fi. Tai-Fi naturally patted his chest and promised that he would definitely find the real culprit behind this matter. This kind of matter could not be easily covered up. Even Li Zongjio personally came forward. Naturally, this matter must be resolved thoroughly. When Li Zongjio came out, those who were originally idle also bowed to Li Zongjio. Those who did not know would have thought that Emperor Xingyan was out in disguise. In order to avoid more disturbances and sensations, Li Zongjio's figure flashed and disappeared from the street. Many people were fortunate enough to see the true face of their young master. They felt that it was an extremely fortunate thing. As for those who did not see it, they could only feel annoyed. Their young master was truly a legendary figure. As for how legendary he was, That was something only he himself knew. In the city at the Four Seas Inn. This inn was prominent and famous in the Jianghu. It had once received many extremely famous chivalrous people in the Jianghu. At this moment, a few people walked into the inn. One of them was an old man who only had one arm, which attracted a lot of attention. When the diners in the lobby saw them, they put down their chopsticks. From the aura of these people, it seemed that they were not to be trifled with. "Sirs, please come upstairs. Please come upstairs." When the shopkeeper of the Four Seasons saw them, he immediately invited them upstairs. Chapter 704. Those who came to the Four Seas Inn were Xiao Yuan and the others from the Xinyuan sect. After leaving the Mirror Moon Villa, the group of people arrived at the city. The kill order has already been issued. Li Zongjio killed my sect's disciple, Tian Fei. Just this reason alone is enough for Li Zongjio to die a tragic death. Alright, why hasn't Qin Liang come back yet? How long has it been? Gong Changhe couldn't help but have a bad premonition. Could there have been some kind of accident? Tian Fei's death was the only way to go about his plan. Otherwise, everything would have been in vain. If the fact that Qin Liang went to kill Tian Fei was exposed, it might affect Gong Changhe. However, Gong Changhe didn't care about this. Even if they were exposed, it would have nothing to do with Gong Changhe. Everything would be due to Qin Liang's own initiative. He could even say that Qin Liang was blinded by greed. When the time came, he could just kill Qin Liang. The only thing he was worried about was that Tian Fei would escape, and the crime that could kill Li Zongjio would be gone. This was what Gong Changhe was worried about. Don't worry. With Qin Liang's understanding of Tian Fei, there won't be a problem. A disciple said. The relationship between the two of them was pretty good. However, it was unexpected that Qin Liang was the first one who wanted to kill Tian Fei. Therefore, these brothers who seemed to be on good terms with each other were only on good terms with each other now. If you suddenly lost your power, what awaited you would be endless and the most thorough way to kick you when you are down. Go and find out who Li Zongjio is. Elder Xiao Yuan said. A disciple immediately stood up and replied. This disciple was responsible for collecting information on normal days. He naturally had his own way of collecting information. Li Zongjio? You want to find trouble with Li Zongjio? I can help you. The door of Xiao Yuan's room was suddenly pushed open by someone. Seeing someone walk in, everyone in the room became nervous. He stared at the newcomer with a murderous look in his eyes. Could it be that Li Zongjio was so powerful in the city that Li Zongjio's men could be seen everywhere he went? The ninth prince Xianming walked in, followed by Han Shuang and Han Shui. His expression was ice-cold, but there was a different kind of charm to it. It caused one's heart to be involuntarily moved when looking at him. Gong Changhe's eyes first fell on the two maids, but he hid his gaze very well and didn't reveal it in front of the crowd. You are? Elder Xiao Yuan said. The newcomer had an untamed temperament. Moreover, there was a strong innate feeling that caused Elder Xiao Yuan to raise his eyebrows. This person's identity was definitely extraordinary. I'm Xianming. The ninth prince said slowly. As soon as they heard this name, Xiao Yuan and the others instantly came to an understanding. They widened their eyes and looked at the man in front of them. They didn't expect him to be the ninth prince of the Xingyan dynasty, His Highness Xianming. The reason why the Xinyuan sect came in person was because of the royal family behind Princess Jinggan. Once the Xinyuan sect and the Xingyan dynasty had a marriage alliance, the situation would be like the sun in the sky. It was just that it wasn't so easy for him to succeed. Therefore, they needed this opportunity. The opportunity was Master Jingyue. If Master Jingyue was the one to speak, the success rate would obviously be higher. The Xinyuan sect might not be on the same level as the Xingyan dynasty. Now, the ninth prince took the initiative to come to them for cooperation. If it was before, the Xinyuan sect and the others might have considered it. After all, the status of a prince and a princess was different. If the prince got involved, there might be some problems when competing for the throne in the future. If they stood on the wrong side, it would have a great impact on them. Therefore, it was necessary to assess the situation carefully. However, it was different now. Originally, Xiao Yuan and the others hated Li Zongjio to the core. As long as they could kill Li Zongjio at any cost, it would be worth it for them. So it's His Highness Shen Ming. Please come in. It's fate for us to meet here. Xiao Yuan's face immediately revealed a smile. After all, he was the principal elder. He had a lot of experience in dealing with these people. It was necessary to use such means to deal with them. Regardless of whether they would cooperate or not, they couldn't afford to offend them. The Xinyuan sect wants to deal with Li Zongjio? Do you have any conflicts with Li Zongjio? The ninth prince said. The faces of Shen Yuanzong and the rest changed. At first, they thought that Peng Qiao was the only one who had encountered the ninth prince. But now, it seemed like the ninth prince had come knocking on their door directly. It seemed like the ninth prince had already investigated their background thoroughly. Xiao Yuan and the others thought about it carefully and didn't think much of it. After all, this was the sacred flame royal city. In addition, although they kept a low profile this time, they did not hide anything. Therefore, some of the movements when they came were seen by some forces. The smiles on the faces of Xiao Yuan and the others gradually faded. Then, Xiao Yuan's eyes were filled with righteous indignation. His eyes were filled with anger and resentment towards Li Zongjio. It seemed like he hated Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio plotted to kill our sect's disciples. If we don't kill him, where will the dignity of our Xinyuan sect go? An indescribable rage and grief immediately surfaced on the faces of Xiao Yuan and the rest. To them, this was a great humiliation and they had to use Li Zongjio's blood to wash away this humiliation. Li Zongjio dared to kill your Xinyuan sect's disciples? The ninth prince had never expected Li Zongjio to be so bold. This was great news for the ninth prince. Of course, he couldn't show it on the surface. Otherwise, it would be too much. At the same time, the ninth prince's face was also filled with grief. Li Zongjio is so arrogant and despotic. He must have someone backing him. Now that I've found out that Li Zongjio's family is in Luoxia City, we must first control Li Zongjio's family if we want to kill such a demon. The ninth prince said slowly and then looked at Xiao Yuan. As a righteous sect, our mystic Yuan sect will definitely not do something like exterminating the entire sect. Xiao Yuan said in a deep voice. However, the ninth prince's expression didn't change much. He seemed to be waiting for Xiao Yuan to continue. However, our Xinyuan sect has the obligation to eliminate the demon sect that such a demon belongs to. Chapter 705. During his cultivation, Li Zongjio also discovered that using the power of the desolate heaven essence to temper his body was a pretty good cultivation method. He had yet to make any progress with the ancient golden tyrant body technique. Furthermore, the desolate heaven essence could also temper his mental strength to a certain extent. With this discovery, Li Zongjio's cultivation speed increased by leaps and bounds. Li Zongjio used his mind to control the desolate heaven essence to hammer his body. Boom! The power of the desolate heaven essence had existed since ancient times. All of a sudden, it smashed into Li Zongjio's body, causing a terrifying force to surge into his body. Boom! If the power in Li Zongjio's body was like a mountain, then this strike would have directly smashed Li Zongjio's body into smithereens. Pwah! Even Li Zongjio could not hold back and spat out a mouthful of blood. He never expected that Li Zongjio, who had not bled for a long time, would actually spit out blood from his attack. No, this power is too strong. Li Zongjio took a long time to slowly get up by supporting himself against the wall. This strike had nearly shattered his body. Although the effect was not bad, the power was too great. If he was not careful, Li Zongjio's body would have been smashed to smithereens. How could Li Zongjio dare to take such a risk? It could even be said that if he was careless and made a mistake, Li Zongjio's life could be taken. He still had no way of controlling the desolate heaven essence, so he would have to wait until he could control it. Immediately, Li Zongjio put away the desolate heaven essence. It was no wonder that the strike from before was able to shatter a person's yuan bead. According to this logic, the yuan bead's hardness should be even tougher than any other part of one's body. Even if one's body was crippled by this rod, one's yuan bead should still be as tough as ever. However, after personally experiencing the power of the desolate heaven essence, Li Zhongjio also understood why it was able to destroy the yuan beads of others. The stronger your body is, the stronger the power of the desolate heaven essence will be. That was why Li Zhongjio's stick had such a terrifying effect when it hit his body. Young master, are you all right? Why do I hear you vomiting blood? Inghu came to Li Zhongjio's practice room and knocked on the door. Ever since Inghu broke through, he had become even more elusive in this courtyard. Originally, Inghu's Qinggong was not bad. Now that he was a Yuan monarch, coupled with the doppelganger technique taught by Li Zhongjio, Inghu's strength had improved by leaps and bounds. Ahem, I'm fine. Li Zhongjio stood up. How could he embarrass himself in front of his subordinates? Li Zhongjio had never embarrassed himself in front of an outsider before. Young master, there's someone called Tian Fei outside. He says he wants to seek refuge with you. Should I let him in? Inghu shouted from outside the door. Tian Fei? Li Zhongjio recalled the kid whose yuan bead had been shattered. Hadn't he already given this kid a way out? He had been waiting for this kid to go into hibernation and grow into a great demon king so that this kid could deal with the mystic yuan sect? Why had he come to his place? Li Zhongjio's actions of letting a tiger return to the mountains was foolish. In fact, he was the foolish one. Such a person was not qualified to be called a tiger in front of Li Zhongjio. He was at most a fly, or at least a little bigger than a mosquito. Therefore, it could be said that Li Zhongjio didn't care at all. He just wanted to make this world a little more exciting and interesting. Tian Fei was thrown here because his talent was destroyed. He was even abandoned in the end. They wanted to use Tian Fei's death in exchange for a legitimate reason to issue a kill order to kill Li Zhongjio. Tian Fei would naturally choose to explode after being treated like this. No one would be willing to endure such humiliation. Moreover, Tian Fei was already a dead man. The Mystic Yuan sect would not let Tian Fei continue to live. Once the junior sect leader knew that Tian Fei was still alive, he would use even more cruel and ruthless means to kill Tian Fei. There was no doubt about this. Therefore, Tian Fei's future path was to become stronger as he fled. In the end, whether or not Tian Fei could break out of the encirclement and survive would depend on his own ability. But now, he actually came here. What was this kid trying to do? Seek refuge with me? Then let him in. Let's see what this kid has to say. Li Zhongjio said. Then he tidied up and went out. The Howling Moon Wolf King had already been abducted by Dou Ling. Now, Dou Ling spent almost every day in the casino. This brat was truly a complete coward. After a little coercion and enticement, he immediately betrayed Li Zhongjio and left with another woman. But fortunately, Dou Ling would come back to sleep at night. She could not possibly sleep in the casino all day long. As for whether Dou Ling was hurt outside, there was no need to worry. He only needed to worry about whether Dou Ling would hurt others outside. Moreover, Dou Ling had Du Lianyi by her side. Basically, there would be no problem. In the hall, Tian Fei knelt down on one knee in front of Li Zhongjio. Didn't I let you live? What are you doing here? Li Zhongjio looked at Tian Fei and said, Tian Fei is here to seek refuge with you. I am willing to help you fight against the Mystic Yuan sect. Tian Fei said. Inghu, who was standing at the side, opened his mouth wide. Fuck me? What do you mean? Why do you want to fight against the Mystic Yuan sect? Young master, when did we offend the Mystic Yuan sect? Inghu had been in the underworld for a long time. Naturally, he knew the strength of the Mystic Yuan sect. Even among all the forces in the world, the Mystic Yuan sect was one of the top powerhouses in the underworld. In the entire Xingyan dynasty, the Mystic Yuan sect was not some local expert. This was a dynasty-level force. If you offended such an expert, they could easily hunt you down all over the world. This is the disciple of the Mystic Yuan sect. I just chopped off one of their elders' hands and snatched one of their elixirs. Of course, they would not let me go. Li Zhongjio said very naturally. It was as if these things were normal for him. He said very calmly, What? Young master, you chopped off one of their elders' hands? Whose hand did you chop off? I don't know his name, but he only has one arm. Don't you think it's funny? When Yinghu heard this, he immediately felt his legs go soft. In the mystic Yuan sect, there was a famous one-armed elder. One-armed Xiao Yuan. Primitive Emperor Realm Expert. You, how long have you been out? You chopped off the arm of an primitive Emperor Realm Expert, and it was the only one. It's Elder Xiao Yuan. Tianfei said. Shadow Fox almost succumbed to his asthma and fainted on the spot, unable to breathe properly. Chapter 706. Since you want to seek refuge, you can stay here. Your task in the future is to watch over the people in the stable. Li Zongjio recalled that there was another person in his courtyard. Since he was a Yuan monarch elite, he naturally had to hire an expert to watch over him. Although Lu Wenshan had been living quite comfortably in Li Zongjio's residence recently, Li Zongjio's residence was still a little strange. He could also use some elixir pills in exchange for a more comfortable life. Now, there was a bed in the small stable. In addition, Lu Wenshan's daily job was to brush the red mane horse clean and feed it until it was full. Tianfei had not expected Li Zongjio to agree so quickly. Was he not afraid that Tianfei would do something else? He was too confident in Tianfei's safety. Then, Yinghu brought Tianfei to the stable. When Tianfei saw the person living in the stable, he felt suffocated. For some reason, he felt a sense of suffocation. It was obvious that the strength of the person in front of him was even greater than his own. Although Lu Wenshan was now a prisoner, he was still a powerhouse who was about to break through and become a grade 6 alchemist. His mind power was extremely powerful. Who is this? Lu Wenshan asked Yinghu. In this entire courtyard, Yinghu was the real housekeeper. Everything was handled by Yinghu. Because there was no one else, Lu Wenshan tried his best to curry favor with Yinghu. You two can get to know each other. You can stay with him in the future. There are no other rooms here. His task is to watch over you. Don't worry. Yinghu waved his hand and said. Although Lu Wenshan did not know the person in front of him, he knew that the young man in front of him was a Yuan monarch elite. Such a young Yuan monarch elite was naturally talented and strong. However, how did such a genius end up living in a stable? I am Tianfei. How should I address you, senior? Tianfei cupped his hands and said. He could tell at a glance that Lu Wenshan was strong. He had not expected that the person living in Li Zongjio's stable was also a peerless expert. Spirit Valley Sect, Lu Wenshan. Finally, there was an outsider. Lu Wenshan immediately said arrogantly. With his reputation as an elder of Spirit Valley Sect, many people would have heard of him. True enough. When Tianfei heard Lu Wenshan's name, his face immediately turned pale. Their mystic Yuan sect might not know everything that had happened in Sacred Flame Royal City previously. At most, they had heard a little about it. However, they had naturally heard of Lu Wenshan's name before. So it's an elder of Spirit Valley Sect. Tianfei bowed respectfully. Although the fighting strength of Spirit Valley Sect was definitely inferior to the Mystic Yuan Sect, a sect like the Mystic Yuan Sect would definitely not dare to offend an alchemy sect like Spirit Valley Sect. Once they were offended, the alchemy sect would go all out to help the Mystic Yuan Sect's enemy. That would be a heavy blow to the Mystic Yuan Sect. Even if the Mystic Yuan Sect was not destroyed, it would be quite difficult for them. What sect are you from? Why are you here? Lu Wenshan asked. Speaking of this, Tianfei's eyes were filled with vicissitudes of life. Although he was young, everything that he had experienced was still too tragic for him. Tianfei immediately recounted his experience to Lu Wenshan. After all, Lu Wenshan was also an experienced person. After comforting Tianfei, he also expressed his approval of Tianfei's enlightenment. Only when one's strength is strong, that's true strength. Previously, he hoped to rely on the strength of this sect to save himself. In the end, he was quite miserable. However, Lu Wenshan relied on his own strength to survive here and had a good life. Most importantly, Lu Wenshan was still alive. Everything was to save himself. As long as he was alive, there was hope. Then work hard here. There will be a day when you succeed. Oh right, as an old man here, I have to remind you. In this courtyard, other than Li Zongjio, you have to be extra careful of another young girl. This girl's strength is unfathomable. When she is irritable, she has unstoppable violence. Lu Wenshan said in a deep voice. Tian Fei nodded. Tian Fei also nodded in understanding. Even the calm and experienced Lu Wenshan could not help but show a trace of fear and lingering fear on his face. It was as if he had experienced an indescribable horror. Tian Fei, who had just joined, could not help but feel a little nervous. However, even in the stable of Li Zongjiu's family, the person who lived there was a peerless expert. This was really too shocking for Tian Fei. Shouldn't such an expert be provided with the best food, accommodation, and service? It was really hard to imagine that such an expert would be reduced to living in a stable. No, I have to remind Li Zongjiu. Young master, the Xinyuan sect is very likely to attack his family. Tian Fei was very familiar with the tricks of the Xinyuan sect. In fact, Tian Fei did not hate Li Zongjiu. After all, they were on the opposite side at that time. Moreover, although his origin pearl was broken, the other two had also repaired it. Instead, it was Li Zongjiu who made Tian Fei recognize the group of people around him. At the same time, it made Tian Fei determine his own path. Who else in the world could do this to such an extent? Naturally, there was no need to hate such an expert. What made Tian Fei most angry and hated the most was the people of the Xinyuan sect. Only by killing Gong Changhe could he vent the hatred in his heart. Lord Yinghu, I have something to report. Tian Fei found Yinghu, who was fishing. If you have something to say, just say it. What's there to report? Yinghu shook the fishing rod in his hand, and the fish that was about to take the bait was scared away. Yinghu hurriedly went forward to report this matter to Yinghu. Yinghu immediately put down the fishing rod and went to look for Li Zongjiu. The people of the Xinyuan sect are so shameless. After listening to this information, Li Zongjiu suddenly frowned. Although the Luoxia city was under the protection of the Thousand-Horse City, the Thousand-Horse City might not be able to withstand the Xinyuan sect with their strength. Therefore, if he wanted to solve this matter, he must do it as soon as possible. A group of people who are courting death. Li Zongjiu's eyes were filled with cold light. Since these people wanted to deal with the people of the Luoxia city, he naturally could not let them go back alive. Just when Li Zongjiu was about to set out to find these people and kill them. But he found that there was another visitor. And this time, the visitor could be said to have been waiting for Li Zongjiu. It was so hard to wait. You stinking brat, I've finally found you. The library elder rushed in and almost strangled Li Zongjiu to death. Chapter 707. The person who came was none other than the guardian elder of the library who had been waiting for Li Zongjiu in the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. Now, the half-year deadline was just around the corner. If the scorpion poison in his body was not removed, it would definitely have a great impact. Therefore, during this period, the elder had been desperately searching for the medicinal herbs that Li Zongjiu needed. It was not easy to gather them, but he found that Li Zongjiu was in the secret realm. Now, he could not find Li Zongjiu no matter how hard he tried. He could only wait outside bitterly. Oh, it's you. It's been half a year already? Li Zongjiu frowned. Time really passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, the time was up. Look at how anxious this old man was. It's just a small scorpion. Look at your cowardly face. Li Zongjiu said disdainfully. Have you prepared the things I asked for? When the elder heard this, he wanted to slap him. What did he mean by a small scorpion? If it were not for this scorpion, he would not have to suffer the pain of his cultivation falling. Of course, it's all here. The medicinal pills on your prescription are all a mess. Speaking of these medicinal herbs, this old man could be said to be extremely annoyed. He had to run all over the Xingyan dynasty. God knows how many grandfathers and grandmothers he had to beg before he could gather these medicinal herbs. Now that he thought about it, the price he had to pay to get these medicinal herbs was quite high. These are all good things. What do you know? Li Zongjiu took the storage ring that the elder handed over. After checking it, he found that the medicinal herbs were indeed complete. In this way, he could start preparing to refine the Longevity Myriad Origin pill. A pill that could increase his cultivation for many years and increase his cultivation base. Just the 6 grade 6 medicinal herbs in his hand were already very precious. To be able to finish them in half a year, this old man was quite capable. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to be so efficient. You've got the herbs. Now, tell me, how are you going to detoxify me? Until now, the old man still didn't know if Li Zongjio was reliable or not, or if he could cure him. If Li Zongjio couldn't do it, then he would definitely beat this guy to death without hesitation. Follow me. Li Zongjio led the old man into the training room. The training room itself had been reinforced, so that if there was a breakthrough, some of the wantonly pervasive aura would be released and hurt the people around. It's finally here. I'm so excited. Brat, you have to be careful. Otherwise, I'll be sorry if I accidentally hurt you. The old man's emotions were clearly somewhat agitated. His cultivation had been sealed for nearly 10 years. Anyone would have been driven mad. Fortunately, this old man had waited for hope to arrive. Brat, the weapon in your hand looks pretty good. Where did you get it? The old man looked at the desolate heaven essence in Li Zongjio's hand and could tell at a glance that it was extraordinary. He had already reached the Yuan Lord realm more than 10 years ago. Such strength naturally wasn't something that ordinary Yuan Lords could compare to. Li Zongjio estimated that the old man's previous cultivation should have been at the 4th or even the 5th Yuan Lord realm. After all, it wasn't easy to survive the attack of the desolate sky scorpion. The fact that he was still alive and breathing was already proof of his strength. He had already possessed such a cultivation more than 10 years ago, but now he was trapped at the peak of the Yuan Lord realm. Naturally, he wouldn't feel good about it. What are you doing? Suddenly, he saw Li Zongjio raise the glowing stick in his hand and smash it at the old man's head. The old man immediately flipped over and fell to the ground. You're really talkative. Li Zongjio knocked the old man unconscious. Of course, this wasn't necessary. He just didn't want to listen to the old man's bullshit. Following which, Li Zongjio helped the old man up. With a bang, a stream of Yuan power was injected into the old man's body. A domineering force instantly surged out. The obsidian flame immediately burned in the old man's body. In the past, his strength had been insufficient. Even the flames had not been able to enter the old man's body and had been blocked by the old man's own strength. Although the old man's current Yuan monarch cultivation base was only at the peak of the Yuan monarch realm, the various reactions of his body were at the level of a Yuan monarch. It wouldn't be so easy for the external Yuan power to invade his body. After knocking the old man unconscious with the stick, it would have a certain effect. Of course, the reason why he was so confident was because the desolate heaven essence was in his hands. Using the desolate heaven essence to suppress the old man would naturally have a very good effect. Now, let's see how cunning a scorpion like you is. Li Zongjio's Yuan power wrapped around the Black Day's flame before it directly gushed into the elder's body and reached his Yuan bead. The elder's Yuan bead was also surrounded by this terrifying flame. Then, Li Zongjio also immersed his mental energy into it. Boom! In the next second, Li Zongjio's mental energy arrived at the Yuan Pearl. This was the old man's Yuan Pearl world. Li Zongjio's mental energy could see a tall mountain. This was the old man's Yuan Pearl. At this moment, the terrifying power that existed on top of this mountain made Li Zongjio raise his eyebrows. What a huge scorpion! From the top of the mountain, one could see an extremely huge black scorpion lying on top of it. Staring at such a terrifying power, Yi Zichen sighed. It was the power of this black scorpion that was suppressing the old man's Yuan Pearl. A large portion of the power was being restrained by this scorpion. Desolate sky scorpion, let me have a taste of your moves. Li Zongjio stretched out his hand and the desolate heaven essence appeared in his hand. This was the benefit of refining a weapon. One could take it out and use it at any time and place. Using such power in one's hands, Li Zongjio was also extremely powerful. The desolate heaven essence emitted a terrifying light. Boom! It transformed into a force of 10,000 feet and smashed towards the desolate sky scorpion. As long as the desolate sky scorpion was destroyed, the poison would be eliminated. The obsidian flame wrapped around the desolate heaven essence. It smashed towards the desolate sky scorpion. The great desolate sky scorpion was greedily absorbing the energy of the Yuan Force mountain below. Suddenly, it sensed someone charging towards it. Naturally, it was infuriated when it sensed such a terrifying aura. The desolate sky scorpion also raised its pincers. Boom! When the desolate heaven essence collided with the desolate sky scorpion, there was a terrifying explosion. The desolate sky scorpion's pincers were sliced apart. However, the desolate heaven essence was also blasted away. Not good. When the desolate heaven essence was blasted away, Li Zongjio sensed that something was wrong. The desolate sky scorpion was also at the origin emperor realm, a rank 6 Yuan beast. The strength of such a Yuan beast was naturally not weak. It seized the opportunity to grab Li Zongjio with its pincers. The powerful move was released and separated the distance of a few hundred meters, clamping Li Zongjio between its pincers. Crack! Li Zongjio immediately felt that his body was about to be crushed. However, the Golden Dragon Yuan spirit also took the initiative to appear. It allowed Li Zongjio to release golden light from his body, blocking the attack and preventing Li Zongjio from being crushed into two. How arrogant! Are you trying to crush me to death? Li Zongjio's eyes were filled with coldness. He immediately raised his hand and slammed down. It shattered a small portion of the desolate sky scorpion's pincers. Break! Another punch landed right in the middle of the room. It contained Li Zongjio's Yuan Qi and the power of the Golden Dragon Yuan spirit, shattering the desolate sky scorpion's pincers. Boom! The moment Li Zongjio smashed the pincers, suddenly, the sound of wind breaking could be heard. It was the desolate sky scorpion's poisonous tail. Boom! Chapter 708. The poisonous stinger was extremely powerful. If Li Zongjio was hit, his mental energy would be contaminated by the prehistoric sky scorpion's poison. However, when the poisonous stinger appeared in front of Li Zongjio seemed to have nowhere to run. At this moment, the black dragon soul was released from his body. A majestic roar resounded in the sky like thunder. Boom! A huge black dragon drilled out of Li Zongjio's body and grabbed the scorpion's tail with its claws. With a roar, it shattered the scorpion's tail. Bang! The appearance of the black dragon soul was truly shocking to Li Zongjio. Because this fellow seemed to have appeared by itself, this made Li Zongjio turn serious. This wasn't a good thing. He didn't expect this thing to have been hiding in his body all this time, hibernating until now. However, the black dragon origin dragon appeared because Li Zongjio was in danger. No, this black dragon soul seems to be in a state of automatic protection. Li Zongjio looked at the black dragon origin spirit that had rushed out of his body. It was wildly beating up the prehistoric sky scorpion in front of it. The fierce battle made Li Zongjio shudder with fear. This kid is really fierce when he fights. The black dragon origin spirit was indeed the king of this battle. With a flip, it tore the prehistoric sky scorpion into pieces. In just a short moment, the black dragon origin spirit had already stepped on the prehistoric sky scorpion. The arrogant attitude of an expert made the prehistoric sky scorpion tremble. The prehistoric sky scorpion struggled for a while before it was devoured by the black dragon origin spirit. Then, the black dragon origin spirit whistled and flew back into Li Zongjio's body. Boom! Seeing the black dragon origin spirit disappear, Li Zongjio also found that these things had been done. The black day's flame appeared once again and gradually removed the remaining poison on the Yuan bead. However, before Li Zongjio could make a move, he suddenly sensed a powerful energy that seemed to be directly erupting from the Yuan bead. Not good. Li Zongjio hurriedly withdrew his mental power from the old man's body. If this power were to spread out, it would directly shatter Li Zongjio's mental power. So, Li Zongjio's mind power returned to its original position. After opening his eyes, Li Zongjio dashed out of the door without a word. Boom! A loud noise erupted from Li Zongjio's house. Li Zongjio's figure landed on the ground. That shocking shockwave was about to send Li Zongjio flying. However, it was only a remnant shockwave after all. After a slight adjustment, Li Zongjio unleashed his Yuan power and blocked the shockwave in front of him. Otherwise, Just this shockwave alone would be enough to destroy the entire courtyard. Boom! All the power was directed towards the sky by Li Zongjio. In the stable, Tian Fei and Lu Wenshan suddenly felt a tyrannical shock wave in front of them. Because the distance wasn't very far, and the aura was gradually getting stronger. This was clearly the shock wave of an Origin Emperor expert. There's an Origin Emperor expert? Could it be that Li Zongjio has broken through to the Origin Emperor level? Lu Wenshan's face was full of shock and astonishment. Seeing this scene, he was also guessing in his heart. Origin Emperor expert? Tian Fei's face was also full of shock. What kind of crouching tiger and hidden dragon was Li Zongjio? Even in the Mystic Yuan sect, the number of Origin Emperor experts was definitely not many. Every Origin Emperor expert was almost priceless and had a high status. In the Mystic Yuan sect, if one's cultivation had broken through to the Origin Emperor realm, he would basically not have to worry for the rest of his life. As long as he did not betray the sect, he could do whatever he wanted. There was a great tolerance for Origin Emperor experts. Even in a sect, as long as there was an Origin Emperor expert alive, they could make a comeback. Even the other sects and forces would not go too far. If an Origin Emperor expert went crazy, the lethality and destructive power he could cause was extremely terrifying. Now, in this small manner, there was also an primitive Emperor powerhouse, which was really shocking. Yinghu also hurried to Li Zongjio's courtyard. Seeing the scene in front of him, he was extremely shocked. How could there be an Origin Emperor expert? Could it be that the old man just now had such a powerful ability? I, Nangong Wuji, am back. An incomparably savage laughter suddenly resounded through the sky. When many people in the city heard this voice, they directly scolded him for being a lunatic, making a ruckus in broad daylight. What else could he be if he was not a lunatic? However, many people were stunned when they heard the name mentioned by the voice. Who did you say? Who's back? Nangong Wuji. He's really back? Yes, that's what that person said. Oh no, this is not good. This Nangong Wuji, oh no? Some people seem to know the whole story. When they heard the name, they were already very surprised. When they found out that the person who had returned was really Nangong Wuji, their expressions changed. This time, there would be a storm gathering in Sacred Flame Royal City. White Deer Manor. As the terrifying power in Nangong Wuji's body surged again, Nangong Wuji also felt a kind of power that he had not felt for a long time. Li, you helped me detoxify. This old man owes you a favor. Nangong Wuji's figure appeared in front of Li Zongjio. Now that Nangong Wuji had recovered to the Origin Emperor realm, although his cultivation had not yet returned to its peak state, he was already quite strong. At least there was hope for him to continue on the path of becoming an Origin Emperor. Don't be so pretentious. You won't die. Li Zongjio looked at the old man in front of him and said. Why did he feel that the old man was floating in the sky after breaking through his current realm? Pretentious? You don't know how powerful I am now. I don't need to be pretentious. Nangong Wuji said indifferently. Those who did not know him would really think that Nangong Wuji was very powerful. Li Zongjio waved his hand casually. Alright. You are so powerful. Go and take a look at your library. Li Zongjio said. This time, Nangong Wuji did not agree. You are trying to stir up trouble. I know that you have some tricks up your sleeve, but you have miscalculated if you want to fight with me now. Nangong Wuji's confidence was greatly boosted at this moment. In addition, Li Zongjio always acted so arrogant, as if he did not put a peerless expert in his eyes. Even if Li Zongjio saved him, he still wanted to teach Li Zongjio a lesson. He wanted to let Li Zongjio know what it meant to be low-key. Oh! Li Zongjio looked at Nangong Wuji with a faint smile. Chapter 709. Today, in return, I will teach you a lesson. Don't worry, it's completely free of charge. I won't charge you anything. With that, Nangong Wuji placed one hand behind his back and stretched out his other hand. A terrifying yuan power gathered in the center of his palm. It seemed like a casual wave of his hand could attract all the Yuan power within 100 miles. Buzz! Yuan power suddenly gathered in front of Nangong Wuji. Boom! The Yuan power in front of Nangong Wuji surged out like a raging dragon. It rushed straight towards Li Zongjio. Whoosh! Li Zongjio stood still and did not dodge. However, Nangong Wuji did not hold back at all. He was determined to make Li Zongjio suffer a little. You're just using an old trick from hundreds of years ago. Li Zongjio's words were full of contempt. However, Nangong Wuji thought that Li Zongjio was just trying to win with his tongue. As long as he caught Li Zongjio and gave him a good beating, he would become obedient. Boom! Li Zongjio slashed out with an object in his hand and instantly dispersed the Yuan power in front of him. The Yuan power released by Nangong Wuji was forcibly dispersed at this moment. Crash! How dare you break my Yuan power? When Nangong Wuji looked at Li Zongjio, he frowned. The strength that Li Zongjio displayed at this moment had surprised Nangong Wuji. Not only will I break your Yuan power, but I will also break your legs. Li Zongjio swung the Desolate Heaven Essence in his hand and the power of the Desolate Heaven Essence immediately swept out. Boom! The power of the Desolate Heaven Essence was like the terrifying power that erupted from the vast mountain range. It rushed towards Nangong Wuji with a terrifying hurricane. Nangong Wuji, on the other hand, was a little confused in front of this power. Immediately, he could only circulate his elemental energy to defend himself. If he were to run away, it would be too humiliating for Nangong Wuji. Could it be that a dignified primitive emperor would run away from a little brat like you? Wouldn't my reputation be tarnished in the future if people knew about it? Therefore, even though Nangong Wuji was already panicking, he didn't choose to escape in the face of this move. Boom! Nangong Wuji's figure was instantly sent flying. Bang! Li Zongjio's strike was too powerful. Nangong Wuji was sent flying by the force of the collision. Nangong Wuji instantly smashed through a wall in the manner and flew out, eating a mouthful of fence-sitters. Cough cough. The corner of Nangong Wuji's mouth was overflowing with blood after he forced himself to stand up. However, he quickly wiped it clean. This time, he was in extreme pain. He felt as if all the bones in his body were going to fall apart. Others probably wouldn't be able to experience this kind of incomparably satisfying feeling. Li Zongjio put away the Desolate Heaven Essence. This time, this self-righteous and pretentious old man would probably be a little more obedient. Li Zongjio's action was to let Nangong Wuji know that he couldn't act presumptuously in front of him just because he had broken through to the primitive emperor realm. This strike could be considered to be a lesson to the old man, a knock on his head. At the same time, Li Zongjio wanted to determine the true power of the Desolate Heaven Essence. Nangong Wuji had just recovered and his elemental energy cultivation was only at the first-grade primitive emperor realm. However, with his strength, he could easily deal with a second-grade primitive emperor. However, after Li Zongjio's strike, Nangong Wuji's situation was still very bad. There was nothing more to say. Li Zongjio also had a rough idea of how much power the Desolate Heaven Essence could produce. "Brat, what kind of weapon is that in your hand?" Nangong Wuji grimaced as he came in front of Li Zongjio. However, Li Zongjio had already put away the Desolate Heaven Essence. "My weapon specializes in beating up the old and weak," Li Zongjio said faintly. "Remember to fix my wall when you get back." The matter of the wall couldn't be forgotten so easily. Although Nangong Wuji was depressed in his heart, he was also slightly surprised. Could it be that the young people nowadays were so powerful that even the primitive emperor could be easily defeated? It's just a wall. If this old man wants to, I can build a mansion in a few minutes. Nangong Wuji said. Nangong Wuji's elemental energy was of the earth attribute. Therefore, he should be quite knowledgeable when it came to building. At this moment, building a wall was naturally an extremely simple matter. However, Li Zongjio took note of Nangong Wuji's words. "You said it. If that's the case, I'll leave that piece of land to you. You have to build it properly for me." Li Zongjio pointed to an open space outside the shattered wall. The open space was next to a barren mountain. It looked extremely desolate, but it was spacious enough. This piece of land looks a little familiar. You really got a piece of land. Nangong Wuji wanted to slap himself. Who would have thought that Li Zongjio would really have a piece of land? Before the house is built, don't even think about leaving. Also, don't blame me for not reminding you. With the state of your origin bead, before it completely recovers, if you still dare to act recklessly, then you can just wait for death. Li Zongjio said. It was like a crippled patient who had been bedridden for many years. If he ran like crazy after recovering, it wouldn't be long before his legs, which had just recovered, would be broken. Moreover, his legs would be completely ruined. Nangong Wuji naturally knew how much credibility Li Zongjio's words had. Therefore, Nangong Wuji wasn't too surprised after hearing Li Zongjio's words. Building a house is not something that can be done with two hands. Besides, I'm a dignified primitive emperor expert. How can I help you find a construction team? I have the formula for a grade 6 elixir. If it's refined, it can at least restore your cultivation to its peak within a year. Deal. Nangong Wuji said immediately. Nangong Wuji no longer had any doubts about Li Zongjio's ability. After all, he could easily remove the primitive sky scorpion's poison. This was enough to prove that Li Zongjio's strength wasn't ordinary. In addition, with this strange weapon, Li Zongjio could at least remain undefeated in the face of a grade 3 primitive emperor expert. It was naturally shocking that he had such terrifying talent and potential at such a young age. Without Li Zongjio's elixir, Nangong Wuji would need at least 3 to 5 years to restore his strength to its peak. Furthermore, no one knew how many heavenly treasures would be consumed during this process. However, Li Zongjio's elixir could greatly shorten the time needed for Nangong Wuji to restore his strength. This was already a miracle in itself. When such a miracle happened to Li Zongjio, Nangong Wuji was not surprised at all. The two people hiding in the stable were watching from afar. After witnessing Li Zongjio's strength, they were deeply shocked. No wonder young master could cut off Elder Xiaoyuan's arm. This is too strong. He recalled that he had wanted to defeat Li Zongjio in the Jingyue villa. Tian Fei suddenly felt that he was too stupid. He wished he could slap his own mouth. It was already giving him face that he didn't kill him directly after offending such a high-level expert. At this moment, Tian Fei had completely let go of his worries and kept a low profile. Although his previous strength was not bad, there were too many masters and capable people in this world. Any one of them could easily appear and take his life. Nangong Wuji. Wuji, this name. Tian Fei looked at Lu Wenshan, who was beside him, and repeatedly muttered Nangong Wuji's name. Tian Fei was a little surprised. Why was Lu Wenshan so frightened by the situation in front of him? Elder Lu, what's wrong with you? Tian Fei couldn't help but ask. However, when he looked at Lu Wenshan, a clear fear gradually appeared in his eyes. It's him. He's back. Chapter 710. Lu Wenshan's teeth were chattering, making it hard to hear what he was saying. Tian Fei listened for a long time, but he still couldn't make out what he was saying. However, he came to the conclusion that Lu Wenshan was an extraordinary person a long time ago. This was enough for him to know. This small white deer manor was really full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. At night, Tai-Fai returned to White Deer Manor with a murderous aura. He mainly came to report today's matter to Li Zongjio. After a busy afternoon, he finally figured out the whole thing after a round of torture. It turned out that it was an elder of the Song family who was behind this. This elder wanted to trip up Song Jiyu, so he started with Song Jiyu's assistant, Xiao Zhao. In the end, he kicked an iron plate, Li Zongjio. This time, he was directly wiped out. Now, this elder was probably running away in the middle of the night. Li Zongjio's actions surprised Song Jiyu. In the past, when Li Zongjio had just risen, he was just a weak little guy. However, now he only needed to move his fingers to force an elder of the Song family to leave. If this elder had stayed, he probably wouldn't have had a good ending. This was extremely surprising. Song Jiyu was also glad that she had a good relationship with Li Zongjio during this period of time. Well done. Li Zongjio nodded. He knew Tai-Fai's ability to handle affairs. If not, Li Zongjio wouldn't have been able to lead Taifai until now. The ability to do things was one thing, and the ability to cultivate was another. No matter which of the two abilities you have, it will be very useful. No matter where you go, you will be able to get along very well. By the way, young master, there's a rumor in the underworld tonight, Taifai said in a deep voice. When he received this news, even Taifai himself was a little surprised. After all, it was just a rumor, and there was very little that could be verified. Although it hadn't been verified yet, it was still a matter of great importance. Taifai couldn't help but mention this to Li Zongjio. "What? I just received the news tonight. There's a must-kill order from the Jianghu, the Xinyuan sect from the Tianyuan state. The Xinyuan sect was located in the Tianyuan state. The sect's kill order. Once such an order was issued, it would definitely not rest until one of them was dead. Moreover, it was usually only used in extremely troublesome situations in order to intimidate the enemy. At the same time, it was equivalent to a bounty order. If anyone in the Jianghu killed this person, they could use this person's head to claim a huge reward from the Xinyuan sect. Therefore, once someone bore the sect's must-kill order, they would usually not be able to survive. How could one person go against the entire sect? In the end, they would usually die a very tragic death. This was the number one sect in the Tianyuan state, the Xinyuan sect. Oh. The Xinyuan sect's must-kill order? Li Zongjio laughed disdainfully when he heard this. These people are really taking it seriously. I have so many things that I haven't done yet. Could it be that these bullshits want to shit on my head? After hearing this, Li Zongjio was also quite angry. It seemed that he was still too merciful. At the Mirror Moon Villa, he shouldn't have let these people leave the mountain alive. They really thought that they were so powerful. Young master, the Xinyuan sect has issued a must-kill order. The first step is to stop them. Otherwise, they will first rush towards your family. Tian Fei came in front of Li Zongjio and said, "Family." Li Zongjio had been fighting alone outside for the sake of providing a good place for his family in the faraway Luoxia city to recuperate. However, these people from the Xinyuan sect actually dared to take the initiative to target his family. Without a doubt, this had directly touched Li Zongjio's bottom line. I think these people are deliberately courting death. Li Zongjio's eyes were filled with a terrifying light. Find the people from the Xinyuan sect in the city for me, Li Zongjio ordered. Given Taifai's familiarity with Li Zongjio, he knew without hesitation that something big was going to happen. Although Li Zongjio was very busy, he would always write a letter to his family and send it back to Luoxia city. These things were handled by Taifai. Therefore, Taifai also knew how much Li Zongjio cared about his family. Now, a group of people had jumped out and wanted to deal with Li Zongjio's family. "Yes, young master." Li Zongjio's eyes flickered with a cold light. "What's wrong, kid? You're in trouble already? If you want me to take action, you have to make an appointment in advance. Otherwise, I'm very busy," Nangong Wuji said with a faint smile. "Can you destroy the Xinyuan sect?" Li Zongjio looked at Nangong Wuji with disdain in his eyes. "Destroy the Xinyuan sect? What's going on? Why are you going against the Xinyuan sect?" Nangong Wuji opened his eyes wide and looked at Li Zongjio in disbelief. "You're really good at stirring up trouble. In the blink of an eye, you've provoked the Xinyuan sect." Although he had been living in seclusion in Heavenly Star Medicine Manor for many years, he was not dead. He was still aware of the happenings in the underworld. As the number one sect in Tianyuan province, the Xinyuan sect's strength was obvious. It was easy for them to mobilize several big families. It might seem ordinary, but once they gathered together, their power would be quite terrifying. "The Xinyuan sect is provoking me," Li Zongjio said. It seemed like he would not be able to have a good rest tonight. I don't have much to do with the Mystic Yuan sect, but I have a friend who has a very discordant relationship with the Mystic Yuan sect. Wait a moment, I'll contact him for you." I didn't expect that I would encounter such a lively matter as soon as I recovered my strength. Nangong Wuji was obviously excited. Li Zongjio glanced at the old man. It seemed that this old man was the one who really liked to stir up trouble. Then when are you going to fix my courtyard? This is a small matter. I'll take care of it in a minute. Nangong Wuji's figure disappeared into the night sky as soon as he finished speaking. Tian Fei, who was standing at the side, could not wait any longer. Young master, according to the procedure of the sect's kill order, we have to prove that the order is effective. As long as I'm alive, they won't be able to carry out the order. Tian Fei suddenly said. Li Zongjio looked at Tian Fei. Within 2 days, the sect will send a supervising elder to verify the content. Once it's verified, the kill order will be fully activated. At that time, I only need to show up to prove that the order is invalid. Because of the content of the kill order from before, it was obvious that it was based on Tian Fei's death. If Tian Fei had not been killed by Li Zongjio, the kill order would not have existed. So what if it's valid? So what if it's invalid? Li Zongjio, don't need to wait to kill. Li Zongjio said proudly. Chapter 7:11. Since he had already planned to mess with Li Zongjio's family, how could he continue to be courteous with him? What nonsense was this about whether it was effective or not? Li Zongjio only needed to know where these people were and kill them directly. As for the others, he would kill them one by one. If 10 came, he would kill 10. If they were too slow and Li Zongjio wasn't satisfied, Li Zongjio wouldn't mind bringing people to their sections. He would kill them until their sects were disbanded. These people really wanted to go to heaven. How dare they clamor at Li Zongjio? Tian Fei, on the other hand, was shocked by Li Zongjio's attitude. What kind of thinking was this? Could it be that the entire Xinyuan sect was nothing in Li Zongjio's eyes? One should know that there were at least 10 primitive emperors in the Xinyuan sect. Excluding those who had been guarding the sect for a long time, there were more than 10 primitive emperors who could move freely. Even in the Sacred Flame Royal City, there might not be many forces that could resist the arrival of 10 primitive emperors. If young lord has already decided, please leave Gong Changhe's life to me. Tian Fei said coldly. Tian Fei would definitely make these people kneel and tremble at his feet after seeing the arrogance in their eyes that day. He would definitely make Gong Changhe pay 100-fold for breaking his finger. Up to you. Taifai's efficiency was good, but when the news was brought back, it brought a big problem. There was someone else who was secretly meddling in this matter. The 9th prince. Let's go. Let's deal with the 9th prince of the Xinyuan sect first. We'll settle the score with him later. Li Zongjio said. Taifai brought Li Zongjio to the 4 Seas Inn. At the same time, Li Zongjio mobilized his mental strength and summoned the Howling Moon Wolf King. Dou Ling rode on the back of the Howling Moon Wolf King and shuttled through the eaves. What's going on? I was just about to win. Recently, Dou Linger had become addicted to playing Sparrow. She had just gotten a good hand of cards and was about to win when she discovered that the Howling Moon Wolf King seemed to have received a message and was rushing over. Dou Linger naturally stopped what she was doing. It was obvious that she had something important to do. Go kill a few people? Li Zongjio said as he sat in the carriage and sped forward. The streets at night seemed particularly empty, mainly because it was getting late. Kill? As long as there is no blood. Dou Ling. The one driving the carriage was Tian Fei. Tai Feihe and the others didn't follow. After all, they weren't strong enough. Even if they came, they would only be delivering their heads. When Tian Fei first saw this strong and tall wolf appear beside him, he almost jumped in fright. It was not because of the wolf's size. After all, he had seen many Yuan beasts. It was because of the fierce aura of the Howling Moon Wolf King. After getting closer, the terrifying aura of the wolf was enough to intimidate Tian Fei. Coupled with the ferocious gaze that was directed at him, Tian Fei felt a sense of deterrence. Over the past few months, the Howling Moon Wolf King's meals were very good. Other than the elixirs refined by Lu Wenshan, Dou Ling would also frequently reward the Howling Moon Wolf King with a few elixirs. This allowed the Howling Moon Wolf King to enjoy what was called a good life. Its strength had also improved by leaps and bounds. In a short span of 3 months, the Howling Moon Wolf King's strength had reached the middle of the 5th rank after eating and drinking the best food. It was equivalent to a grade 5 Yuan monarch. Its sharp claws had not seen blood for a long time, so it naturally wanted to enjoy death. Besides the howling moon wolf king, Tian Fei also saw a young lady sitting on its back. This young lady was like a fairy. This was Tian Fei's first impression of her. He was even a little dazed. However, in Tian Fei's mind, he quickly recalled what Lu Wenshan had said to Tian Fei. He had to pay attention to a little girl. Although she looked gentle and pleasant, she was actually quite terrifying. Was it this fairy-like little girl before him? Tian Fei started to doubt Lu Wenshan's motives. She was obviously an adorable little girl. How could he go around slandering her? This was really too much. Tian Fei would never believe Lu Wenshan's nonsense. He must be trying to deceive him. Go! Tian Fei was even more smug now that there was a beauty beside him. Yinghu was also in the carriage. Now that he had broken through to the Yuan monarch realm, he would be of some use in these battles. At this moment, in the Four Seas Inn, the ninth prince and the mystic Yuan sect had already reached an agreement. In order to better deal with Li Zhongjiu, the ninth prince would even provide protection for these people. In order to succeed, I will do whatever it takes. The ninth prince's eyes flashed coldly. In Gong Changhe's room, Han Shuang and Han Shue's acupoints had been sealed and they had been drugged. This caused the twin sisters, Han Shuang and Han Shue, to lie on the bed, unable to move. Their eyes flickered with the light of pain. The two of them had been sent to serve the ninth prince as his maids. They had only been groomed by Zishuan court. During this period of time, the ninth prince had already known the true identity of the two sisters. However, in order to make use of Zishuan court, he had deliberately kept the two sisters by his side. Now that he felt that Zishuan court was not very useful, he might as well give the two sisters to Gong Changhe. This was because the ninth prince's own ability was already at its limit. Therefore, there was a price to pay for success. Such a painful price had already been paid. How could the ninth prince not continue and succeed? When Gong Changhe returned to his room and saw the two sisters lying weakly on his bed, the corners of his mouth suddenly curled into a sinister smile. So what if you are a prince of the Xingyan dynasty? If I, Gong Changhe, like you, all I have to do is hook my finger and you will automatically send your maids to my door. At this moment, Gong Changhe was very pleased with himself. Although he didn't say it explicitly, his hint was very accurate. It seemed that this Prince Xian Ming was a smart person. After he sent the person up, Lin Mingya was stunned. This caused Gong Changhe to feel extremely satisfied. Don't worry, my ladies. You will feel very happy during this process. Gong Changhe rubbed his hands and walked towards the two sisters step by step. The two sisters gritted their teeth, but there was nothing they could do. At this moment, they could not move at all. They could only shed tears of humiliation. Just as Gong Changhe's demonic hands were about to reach the two sisters, a gust of cold wind blew by and blew open the window beside the bed. When Gong Changhe saw this, he immediately stopped what he was doing. Another pervert! A delicate shout sounded. It could be said that Dou Ling was extremely unhappy when she saw this scene. These men were simply carved from the same mold. They all looked like the same damn men. Gong Changhe was extremely surprised when a figure suddenly appeared outside the window. Who is it? Gong Changhe immediately let out a loud roar. Damn you! As soon as he finished speaking, the howling moon wolf king smashed the window in front of him with its paw and its huge body immediately rushed in. On the other hand, Gong Changhe's reaction was relatively fast. He immediately retreated, but the howling moon wolf king's speed was even faster. After it pounced on Gong Changhe, its sharp claws left a sharp gash on his shoulder. Gong Changhe immediately felt the pain and slapped the howling moon wolf king with his palm. He wanted to send the howling moon wolf king flying, but Gong Changhe felt a strong rebounding force. His entire palm was shaken to the point of pain. Hiss! Gong Changhe sucked in a breath of cold air. While he was looking, the howling moon wolf king had already swung its tail. Bang! The howling moon wolf king's body instantly fell to the ground. Awoo! Just as the howling moon wolf king was about to roar, Dou Ling immediately gestured for the howling moon wolf king to be quiet. If it was too noisy, it would disturb the others' sleep. This was impolite behavior. Damn it, who are you people? Chapter 712. After being knocked down by Do Ling, Gong Changhe was furious. Gong Changhe's face was also filled with displeasure and anger. There was actually someone who dared to attack him, the dignified Gong Changhe. He was the young master of the Mystic Yuan sect. Did they think he was just a nobody? Gong Changhe immediately took out a cyan steel longsword. Most importantly, he turned around and fled. After all, the strength of the man and the wolf was not ordinary. If he fought with them forcefully, he would definitely be affected. He might even be at a disadvantage. Anyway, there were so many people in the sect, and Elder Xiao Yuan was also here. Naturally, there was nothing to be afraid of. However, it was not so easy for Gong Changhe to escape. The Howling Moon Wolf King instantly blocked Gong Changhe's escape route. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, revealing its sharpness. No matter how Gong Changhe's cyan steel longsword pierced its body, it did not budge at all. Clang. Gently, it brought up a trail of fire. Even with my metal attribute sword energy, I can't hurt this wolf. Do Ling unsealed the acupuncture points of Han Shuang and Han Shue's children. At the same time, she poured a stream of elemental energy into them to help them dissolve the poison in their bodies. You even drugged them. You're really shameless. Do Ling looked at Gong Changhe as if she was looking at the world's worst scum. She could not wait to smash him into pieces. Thank you, heroine, for saving our lives. The two women were naturally grateful to Do Ling for saving their lives. It was all thanks to Do Ling that they could be saved this time. Otherwise, it was easy to imagine what would happen next. It's okay. Do Ling waved her hand. This was the first time Do Ling was called a heroine. It was a refreshing feeling to be called a heroine. You bitches, how dare you hurt me? The Mystic Yuan sect will not let you off. Gong Changhe was beaten up by the Howling Moon Wolf King. He did not even have the chance to escape and was directly pressed against the floor. Gong Changhe, who had only revealed his head, cursed Do Ling in front of him. How dare you be so arrogant? Cut him for me. Do Ling suddenly said. Elder, save me. Gong Changhe immediately roared. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly felt a terrifying fluctuation coming from the room next door. Boom! Xiao Yuan broke through the wall and rolled out, smashing onto the floor. He happened to be right in front of Gong Changhe. Pooh! Xiao Yuan immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood sprayed on the floor, making Xiao Yuan's complexion quite pale. There's blood. When Do Ling saw the blood, she immediately covered her eyes and turned her head away. Elder? Seeing Xiao Yuan land on the ground, Gong Changhe couldn't believe it. Even this primitive emperor elder was beaten to such a state. Who was the one who did it? Let's count and see if there's anyone else left behind. Li Zongjiu's voice came from the darkness. Then, with a few thuds, 5 heads rolled on the ground. When he saw the 5 heads, he was shocked. Gong Changhe immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. Even Xiao Yuan was shocked and couldn't believe it. These 5 people were the disciples of Xin Yuan's sect. There were a total of 7 people accompanying them. Qin Liang had gone to kill Tian Fei and had yet to return to the team. The heads of the remaining 5 people were all placed in front of everyone's eyes. How could anyone be surprised when they saw this scene? It was obvious that they were here to exterminate everyone. It's you, Li Zongjiu. Xiao Yuan raised his head and saw Li Zongjiu. Immediately, his eyes were filled with coldness. Just now, when he was cultivating and healing, someone sneaked in and attacked him. The weapon in Li Zongjiu's hand seemed to be specialized in restraining the Yuan Qi of primitive emperors. It was completely suppressed by Li Zongjiu, and there was no way to resist it. It's me, Li Zongjiu said lightly. You're courting death. Xiao Yuan was really angry. As an primitive emperor expert, he was repeatedly beaten to the ground and vomited blood by a young Yuan monarch expert. This made Xiao Yuan unable to bear such humiliation. Immediately, Xiao Yuan slapped the ground angrily. Boom! The whole floor collapsed in an instant. Suddenly, a golden rooster with golden light appeared on Xiao Yuan's body. When the golden rooster appeared, the aura in the air seemed to become extremely sharp. This was Xiao Yuan's original spirit. Golden Rooster King. Li Zhongjiu, you're courting death. Xiao Yuan spat out blood at the corner of his mouth, but it couldn't conceal the tyrannical aura on his body. Staring at Li Zhongjiu in front of him, his eyes were full of indifference. The ceiling and roof of the inn were penetrated by the golden rooster. The howling moon wolf king crawled on the ground and kept baring his teeth, as if he was having a fierce collision with the aura of the golden rooster. Go and capture that brat. Li Zhongjiu shot a glance at Gong Changhe, who was about to escape. The howling moon wolf king didn't say anything and went straight down. Whoosh! Don't even think about leaving here alive today. Xiao Yuan was completely infuriated. How can a mere rooster give you so much confidence? Li Zhongjiu looked at Xiao Yuan and couldn't help but sneer. He immediately released the Yuan power in his hand. The aura of the desolate heaven essence was like a mountain range, shrouding the golden rooster in the sky layer by layer. Boom! Xiao Yuan also controlled the golden pheasant to peck down. It seemed to have the power to break through 10,000 caddies. Boom! Boom! A muffled sound was heard as the power of vibration spread out wildly. Li Zhongjiu's figure instantly disappeared from where he was as he charged towards Xiao Yuan. Blood Soul Hell. When Li Zhongjiu's hellish power spread out, it directly enveloped Xiao Yuan. Xiao Yuan was about to have a head-on confrontation with Li Zhongjiu when he suddenly seemed to have fallen into some kind of domain. The power in his body was also greatly suppressed at this moment. Behind him, the Golden Rooster King's body kept shrinking. Domain power? You are only in Yuan Monarch. How can you use the power of a domain? Xiao Yuan was shocked. He looked at Li Zhongjiu in front of him. His eyes were full of shock. In order to create the effect of a domain, one had to be at least a grade 6 Yuan Monarch. Now, Li Zhongjiu was only in Yuan Monarch, but he was able to use a domain. This was the real power of a domain. There was nothing fake about it. Could there be a grade 6 Yuan Monarch powerhouse behind Li Zhongjiu? That's right. If Li Zhongjiu didn't have such an expert behind him, how could he be so arrogant? If Li Zhongjiu didn't have such an expert behind him, how could he have such a powerful strength and means? Li Zhongjiu, let's talk things over. So, I will immediately lift the sect must kill order. Your mystic Yuan sect will not pursue the matter. Xiao Yuan said anxiously. The power of the domain was too strong, so Xiao Yuan's golden rooster power could only be maintained in his own body and not be attacked at all. In other words, your mystic Yuan sect is willing to let me off? Li Zhongjiu chuckled as he held the desolate heaven essence in his hand. That's right. We won't pursue the matter. Let's talk things over. You won't pursue the matter, but I want to pursue the matter with you. If you have any ability, just use it. I won't let you off today. Li Zhongjiu said nonchalantly. Xiao Yuan cursed in his heart when he heard this. This darn guy, why didn't he say that he had such a powerful backer? The only thing he could do now was to escape. It didn't matter if those disciples died, but if Gong Changhe also died, then the matter would be serious. Therefore, Gong Changhe had to be the one to take him away. However, Xiao Yuan thought too highly of himself. With his strength, it wouldn't be easy for him to escape. Xiao Yuan used his Yuan spirit power and slashed at the border of the blood soul hell. He wanted to split the hell open, but he only managed to create a crack. Li Zhongjiu, who was behind him, had already waved the desolate heaven essence in his hand and smashed it at him. This move is called overlapping mountains. Li Zhongjiu used the desolate heaven essence's technique. Instantly, the terrifying power stacked layer by layer and swept forward. Not good. Facing the power of Li Zhongjiu's move, Xiao Yuan himself also sank into an extremely shocked state. Block it for me. The power of the golden rooster immediately swept out. However, under the light of the desolate heaven essence, it was instantly blasted clean. The desolate heaven essence directly hit Xiao Yuan. Ping! Xiao Yuan's body was immediately shattered inch by the domineering power of the desolate heaven essence. After Xiao Yuan let out a final roar, he couldn't speak again. He was no longer able to speak. Even Xiao Yuan's strength had been completely destroyed. Of course, none of Xiao Yuan's energy was wasted. All of it was integrated into the power of hell. It was completely absorbed. Li Zongjio extended his hand and beckoned. With a swoosh, Xiao Yuan's storage ring landed in Li Zongjio's hand. It was a ring that shone with a golden crown light. Chapter 713. It was not difficult for Li Zongjio to kill Xiao Yuan. Below, Gong Changhe stood up and tried to escape. He had already avoided the Howling Moon Wolf King's pursuit. However, when he turned around and passed through a small alley, he was kicked in the face. Bang! Gong Changhe's entire body flipped and rolled on the ground. Who is it? Gong Changhe was kicked and rolled several times on the ground. Even now, his chest was still in great pain. Young sect master, long time no see. Tian Fei walked out from the darkness and looked at Gong Changhe, who was lying on the ground in a miserable state. His mood was extremely happy and joyful. In fact, this scene seemed to have come a little too quickly for Tian Fei. The usually high and mighty young sect master that no one dared to disobey was now like a broken and disheveled dog, kneeling in front of him, begging for mercy. When he saw Tian Fei walk out, Gong Changhe's eyes were filled with astonishment. "It's you. Why you still?" Gong Changhe suddenly said in horror. No wonder Qin Liang hadn't come back after such a long time. Since Tian Fei was still alive, it meant that Qin Liang had already met with misfortune. Why am I still alive? Are you disappointed to see that I am still alive? Tian Fei sneered. Gong Changhe was lying on the ground and vomiting blood. In addition to his previous injuries, it was difficult for him to get up. I have said that I will return this enmity tenfold. Tian Fei stretched out his hand. The flaw in his palm was clearly visible. Gong Changhe immediately understood that Tian Fei had come back for revenge. Tian Fei's origin pearl was clearly broken, but it had recovered its strength. It was simply unbelievable. How did Tian Fei repair his origin pearl? However, at this moment, Gong Changhe didn't have to think about such things. He had to think about how he could survive. Tian Fei, calm down and listen to me. If you let me go, I will let bygones be bygones. When I return to the sect and become the sect master, I will definitely promote you to be the sect's great elder. Gong Changhe quickly said. This was the only thing that Gong Changhe could take out. You know who I am. The sect will do everything they can to investigate my death. When the time comes, you won't be able to escape. I'll pretend that I never saw you today. Let me go. Gong Changhe's thoughts were clear. However, Tian Fei was well aware of Gong Changhe's temperament. The first thing he would do when he returned to the sect was that Gong Changhe would definitely send people to kill him. Even his family would not be spared. Moreover, this time, Gong Changhe would definitely eliminate the source of trouble. This person must not be allowed to return alive. Tian Fei sneered. There's no need for that. You can't be the sect leader anymore. Just be a dead man. Immediately, Tian Fei's eyes were filled with terrifying killing intent. Tian Fei, you little bastard, how dare you? Seeing this, Gong Changhe attempted to intimidate Tian Fei with his status as the junior sect master. However, Tian Fei had already drawn his sword. With a single slash, the head of Gong Changhe was sent flying. As Gong Changhe's head flew into the air, the Howling Moon Wolf King rushed over from afar and devoured Gong Changhe's head in one bite. Now you know who's the real trash. Tian Fei looked at Gong Changhe's corpse on the ground and sneered. However, at this moment, he was still feeling a little complicated and excited. After all, the person he killed was the junior sect master who had been above him for many years. Even Tian Fei couldn't believe it. Although he had been dreaming about killing this guy, when the day really came, he still felt like he was in a dream. This feeling was really good. This wolf seems to like eating heads. Tian Fei looked at the Howling Moon Wolf King who had landed on the ground and could not help but feel a little nervous. Now that he had gotten rid of Gong Changhe, Tian Fei never thought that he could take revenge so quickly. Even before he was mentally prepared, his enemy had already fallen under his sword. He didn't need to accumulate more hatred in his heart. This kind of gratifying feeling of revenge was really delightful. However, just like what Gong Changha had said earlier, the Xinyuan sect would definitely do their best to track down the culprits. Once they were discovered, it would be a disaster. However, there was no other way now. It was better to take one step at a time. If he returned to the sect, he would definitely die. However, if he stayed with Li Zongjio, he still had a chance of survival. As long as Li Zongjio did not die, Tian Fei, who was hiding behind him, would be able to keep his life. Li Zongjio had easily killed Xiao Yuan with the Blood Soul Hell. Just as Nangong Wuji had guessed, with Li Zongjio's various means, the maximum level of the enemy he could face was around the 3rd grade Origin Emperor realm. If a 4th grade Origin Emperor came, even Li Zongjio would have to retreat. Of course, he still had means to save his life. There were countless moves that Li Zongjio had not used yet. After all, it was really hard to meet an evenly matched opponent who deserved Li Zongjio's full strength. Young master, Gong Changha has been killed. If Xiao Yuan escapes, we must kill him, Tian Fei said nervously when he saw Li Zongjio return alone. That old man is already dead, Li Zongjio said indifferently. Dead? That was the one-armed Xiao Yuan, one of the 7 elders in charge of the Xinyuan sect. An Origin Emperor realm powerhouse. He died just like that on a night like this that didn't even pick a day. He died just like that? Another figure landed on the ground. Yinghu was holding 2 people in his hands as he rushed towards Li Zongjio. Young master, how should we deal with this fellow? The 2 people Yinghu was holding were not ordinary people. They were the 9th prince, Prince Shen Ming. The other person was the 9th prince's bodyguard, an Origin monarch realm powerhouse. However, experts like Yinghu did not need to face them head-on. They could rely on their superior movement skills to knock them out. Yinghu had obtained a lot of good things from Lu Wenshan. It was a very simple task for any alchemist to casually refine some medicinal herbs with special effects. The 2 people in Yinghu's hands were also in deep sleep at the moment. Take them away. Li Zongjio glanced at them. The person he had captured was the 9th prince. Naturally, he could not be dealt with so casually in the city. Even if he wanted to get rid of him, he would have to bring him to a secluded corner first. Dou Ling also brought Han Shuang and Han Shui with her. Everyone returned to the White Deer Manor. Although tonight's battle was extremely spectacular, the process was not complicated. Yinghu had easily killed the disciples of the Xinyuan sect. Of course, Li Zongjio had also killed 3 of them. We are here. Nangong Wuji's figure descended from the sky. Behind Nangong Wuji was a hunchbacked old man in ragged clothes. He held a walking stick in one hand and a broken bowl in the other. He was obviously a beggar in the sacred Flame Royal City. Old Nan, is this the awesome kid you were talking about? The old beggar was quite boastful. When he arrived, he wanted to show off his power to Li Zongjio. Where did this beggar come from? Kick him out. Li Zongjio glanced at the old beggar and said contemptuously, I, Hong Shi-san, can get any food I want. The old beggar Hong Shi-san burst into laughter. Hong Shi-san? You are Hong Shi-san, the whirlwind staff. When the old beggar announced his name, Tian Fei was also surprised. Oh, this little guy has good eyesight. He actually knows my name. Hong Shi-san said proudly. Chapter 716. Revenge? Alright, stop showing off. Aren't you going to deal with the disciples of the Xinyuan sect? I have brought you some experts. When are you going to do it? Nangong Wuji said. Nangong Wuji was a person who loved to see the world in chaos. Since he happened to be here, he would definitely join in the fun. As for the revenge of the Xinyuan sect? Sorry, they hadn't thought about this at all. Do it? Why would I wait for you? I have already killed them. Li Zongjio said. Kill them? What did he mean by that? Nangong Wuji wasn't the only one who didn't understand. Hong Shi-san was even more puzzled. Didn't these people want ZZ to deal with the people from Xinyuan sect? What did they mean when they said that all of them had been killed? It was really puzzling. This kid looks familiar. Nangong Wuji saw the 2 figures lying at Yinghu's feet. Why did one of them look like the 9th prince? We have already gone out and killed all the disciples of the Xinyuan sect. None of them were left alive. Tian Fei explained. Since the person in front of him was Whirlwind Rod Hong Shirsan, he was one of them. This was because Whirlwind Rod Hong Shirsan was hunted down by the Xinyuan sect in the past. Even Hong Shirsan's family was destroyed by the Xinyuan sect. Therefore, Hong Shirsan hated the Xinyuan sect very much. However, he was not strong enough to take revenge. Killing these small fries was not enough to satisfy him. Therefore, Hong Shirsan had been lying low, waiting for such an opportunity. Are you serious? Hong Shirsan was very clear about the movements of the Xinyuan sect. Immediately, Hong Shirsan's figure flashed and disappeared in front of them, flying towards the horizon. Boom! Seeing Hong Shirsan's figure disappear, he must be going to confirm whether those people were dead or not. Lock these two up in the stable and lock them up, Li Zongjio said directly. The dignified ninth prince was reduced to a prisoner. This was probably something that the ninth prince had never dreamed of. There was actually someone who dared to kidnap him in the Holy Flame Imperial City. Even in his dreams, he would not dare to believe it. The two of you can go back by yourselves. I can't stay here anymore. Li Zongjio looked at Han Shuang and Han Shui and said, "Thank you for saving our lives, young master." The two of them looked at each other, then bowed to Li Zongjio. Soon after, they left White Deer Manor. Naturally, they had to return to Purple Xian Pavilion and report back. No one could have imagined that the current situation would turn out like this. However, one thing was certain. It would not be easy for the ninth prince to walk out of the White Deer Manor. Boy, did you really kill the people of the Xinyuan sect? I heard that the one who came this time was an primitive emperor elder and some young sect master. Did you kill them all? Nangong Wuji asked Li Zongjio. He had only gone out for a short time. He only had a meal with his old friends and had a few sips of wine. How could Li Zongjio directly finish the matter? Is it strange? After Li Zongjio finished speaking, he said to the Shadow Fox, "I'm going to go into seclusion to refine pills. Before I come out, make sure that they don't cause trouble everywhere." "Young master, don't worry." Inghu nodded and said, "Tonight was a good night to show off his skills." It also rekindled Inghu's desire to fight. What they did tonight could be said to be quite exciting. Back then, Inghu had embarked on the path of an assassin precisely because he liked the suffocating feeling of being on the verge of death. Tonight he had experienced this feeling once again. He had not felt this way for a long time. Li Zongjio went into seclusion once again. However, the disturbance in the outside world did not stop. Nangong Wuji used the excuse that he was going to start drawing designs as an excuse to stay in Li Zongjio's Bailu Manor in a dignified manner. He was responsible for guarding the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, but what was there to guard? All they did was read books, sweep the dust, and play with crickets. Other than that, there was nothing else to do. They were so bored that their balls hurt. They had already reached their age, so what else was there to say? If they didn't find something to do, then they would probably be like this for the rest of their lives. Therefore, Nangong Wuji found something for himself to do. As for the lack of a room, Nangong Wuji built a wooden house on the old locust tree in the courtyard in less than 15 minutes. Inghu gasped in amazement when he saw Nangong Wuji's method. Nangong Wuji's method was too incredible. He could build a house in such a short time. The problem was what to do when it rained. Hong Shirsan, who had gone to check the situation, quickly returned to Bailu Manor. Looking at Hong Shirsan's expression, it could be said that he was quite excited. There was nothing more exciting than this. After so many years, he really did not expect that he could really meet someone who was not afraid of death and go against the Mystic Yuan sect, an enemy. It was simply inconceivable. At the same time, Hong Shirsan was extremely excited. Speaking of which, Hong Shirsan's heart was filled with joy. He's really dead. He's really dead. This guy has guts. I want to cooperate with him. Hong Shirsan said as he was about to rush in and become sworn brothers with Li Zongjio. However, Nangong Wuji stopped him. Save it. He's refining pills now. Don't mess around. Nangong Wuji stopped Hong Shirsan. Refining pills? I'll wait for a while. Let me tell you, The Mystic Yuan sect has suffered a great loss this time. That old bastard Gong's son is dead. Even his head is missing. Don't you think it's great? I've recorded it with a recording crystal. When I see that old bastard Gong, I'll definitely magnify this scene and show it to him. I'll let him enjoy it slowly. Ha! Hong Shirsan laughed crazily. Nangong Wuji was meditating at the side, ignoring the somewhat crazy Hong Shirsan. This was because Hong Shirsan had endured too much pressure for so many years. Now that he finally saw that the Mystic Yuan sect had suffered such a great loss, he was naturally very happy. At least, he saw a glimmer of hope. This colossus was not invulnerable. I'll stay here first. I'd like to see how capable the Mystic Yuan sect is. Ha! Hong Shirsan laughed loudly. As he was about to enter Nangong Wuji's treehouse, he was kicked out by Nangong Wuji. Get lost and sleep outside. You old man, how dare you kick me? Hong Shirsan was about to argue with Nangong Wuji, but when he saw Nangong Wuji's action, he suddenly shut his mouth. Finally, he obediently walked outside and sat on the steps outside the manor to sleep without his clothes on. Underground black market. It was difficult for the wind and clouds above to spread to the underground. However, the premise was that the people underground did not take the initiative to investigate. At this moment, in front of the King of Fire, Oxhead General was reporting the situation of the person who had robbed their shop in the Ghost King Night Market. Since Li Zhongjio left the Ghost King Night Market, he had been targeted. Oh, you're saying that this Li Zhongjio not only killed the people of the Changsheng Pavilion, but also the people of the Mystic Yuan sect today? Without accurate information, Oxhead General naturally did not dare to come back casually. If the King of Fire was not satisfied with the information he had collected, he could lose his life at any time. In this Ghost King Night Market, human lives were worthless. Don't think that your strength is enough, or even think that you are quite important. If the Fire Ghost King was in a bad mood, he might directly kill you. It's really interesting. It seems that this guy has a good aptitude. Maybe we can cooperate. The King of Fire said mysteriously. Naturally, the people below did not understand the King of Fire's words, but they continued to listen to the King of Fire's orders. Now that we've found this guy, there's no need to worry. Keep a close eye on him and see what other amazing moves he can make. Yes, Ghost King. Oxhead General said respectfully. Also, you did a good job this time. Here's your reward. As soon as he finished speaking, Oxhead General found a fiery red elixir in his hand. When he saw the elixir, Oxhead General's face under the mask suddenly revealed an extremely surprised expression. This kind of elixir was only given out by the King of Fire when he was extremely happy. Chapter 714. Tianyuan Province, Mystic Yuan Sect. The Mystic Yuan sect was located in the core mountain range of Tianyuan Province. It oversaw the central region and absorbed the flourishing energy from all directions. The glory that the Mystic Yuan sect had created was unprecedented. There were more than 30,000 disciples in the sect. There were even more than 3,000 inner sect disciples. It was a huge scale. There were already more than 100 Yuan monarch disciples. Regardless of whether they were the future successors or the current pillars of the sect, they were all vigorous and radiant. It was precisely because the Mystic Yuan sect was full of vitality and had unlimited possibilities. Therefore, the sect master of the Mystic Yuan sect had made a bold attempt to let his son take advantage of this wonderful opportunity to propose marriage to Emperor Xingyan. If this matter could be resolved, then the Mystic Yuan sect would become the #1 sect in Tianyuan Province. It might even be possible for the Mystic Yuan sect to become the #1 sect in the Xingyan dynasty. There were still many sects that could compete with the Mystic Yuan sect in the 13 prefectures. Therefore, if he wanted to establish his position as the #1 sect, he would have to use even more extreme means. However, an accident still occurred during this trip to Sacred Flame Royal City, even though a principal elder was personally leading the team. The sect leader had a bad premonition when he received the sect kill order. He quickly dispatched a team of law enforcers from outside the sect leader's territory. These teams were all outside the sect to deal with some matters, such as the pursuit of traitors within the sect. Or some families that had harmed the interests of the sect needed to be thoroughly punished. Even though they were righteous at the beginning, there was a change in the process. Gradually, they became extremely vicious and merciless, causing people to tremble in fear. However, this group was only halfway through their journey. Suddenly, they received news of a death in the sect. In the middle of the night, under the bright starry sky, a mournful ringing of a bell suddenly rang out in the sky, penetrating through the entire sect. Anyone who heard the ringing of the bell quickly gathered in the main hall. Gong Wuliang didn't even have time to change out of his pajamas as he hurriedly strode towards the hall. The one who sent the message was the Thousand Music Palace's palace master. Exactly what kind of news was it that required the Thousand Music Palace's palace master to personally come and report it? What is it? Spit it out. Gong Wuliang said hurriedly. The ringing of the bell indicated that it was a bad thing. Elder Xiao Yuan and young sect master died in the line of duty. The Thousand Sound Palace master cupped his hands and said, "What?" Gong Wuliang only felt a thunderous roar in his mind. Even with his cultivation, he felt a momentary blankness. From this matter, one could more or less see Gong Wuliang's fondness for Gong Changhe. At the same time, in order to temper Gong Changhe, he asked Xiao Yuan to accompany and protect him. Furthermore, with the protection of a divine item like the purple golden helmet, even if he faced an primitive emperor, he would at least have a chance to escape. He might even have the chance to introduce himself, so that he would not be killed directly under certain circumstances. In that case, his death would be too dubious. However, he did not expect that Gong Changhe would also die outside in the end. Could Sacred Flame Royal City really be a tiger's den? Even Gong Wuliang's son dared to be killed. Gong Wuliang naturally knew that those who dared to kill him definitely knew Gong Changhe's identity. Not only did they want to kill Gong Changhe, but they also wanted to provoke Gong Wuliang. How can the lives of my sect's people be trampled on by outsiders? Order the 7 palace masters to come to the conference hall. Immediately. Gong Wuliang said coldly. Killing Gong Changhe could be said to have directly angered the leader of the Xinyuan sect. Even if he just moved his finger, the experts would be able to cover the sky and cover the earth and kill him. There would be no chance for him to escape. Order the 4 palace masters to come and see me immediately. Gong Wuliang said to the Thousand Sound Palace master. The heart of the Thousand Sound Palace master shivered. The sect master had used the power hidden in the Tianyuan province. From this, one could see how furious the sect master was. It seemed that the sect master was going to do something big this time around. Immediately, the Thousand Sound Palace master hurriedly responded and withdrew. As for the disciples gathered outside the hall, they needed to meditate between heaven and earth to pay homage to the sect's brothers and elders who had passed away. Tianyuan province was naturally in a state of turmoil. Once the Xinyuan sect was angered, the situation in Tianyuan province would naturally change. The people in Tianyuan province naturally smelled the invisible smell of gunpowder. Although the Xinyuan sect dominated Tianyuan province, it didn't mean that they could sit back and relax. There were also many forces below that were covetously eyeing Tianyuan province's position as the overlord of Tianyuan province. As for how the Xinyuan sect would react, it would take at least a night to discuss. Sacred Flame Royal City. White Deer Manor. In the White Deer Manor, there were 2 primitive emperors overseeing it. Their strength was already very strong, which was simply surprising. When the sky was slightly bright, Do Ling had already turned over and got out of bed. She then called the Howling Moon Wolf King and prepared to go to the pleasure casino to learn. However, just as Do Ling was about to go out, she suddenly stopped and looked at the figure of a red-clothed woman who appeared at the door. "Is there anything I can help you with?" Do Ling opened the door and saw a woman in a red robe appear in front of her. The woman's face was also very delicate, making her unforgettable. It was as if she was the most beautiful goddess in one's dreams. The woman smiled at Do Ling and said, "I was passing by and was thirsty, so I came to ask for water." "Water? Then come in." Do Ling moved sideways to let the woman enter the house. The howling moon wolf king at the side was extremely scared. It shivered and covered its eyes with its paws, as if it was extremely afraid of the aura of the woman in front of it. Coming out to ask for water so early in the morning, you're really interesting. Do Ling couldn't help but say. When the red-clothed woman walked into the courtyard, two figures jumped down from the treehouse. Nangong Wuji and Hong Shisan sized up the red-clothed woman in front of them with astonishment. Hong Shisan had been sleeping outside, but it was too cold in the middle of the night, so he directly went to sleep beside Nangong Wuji's treehouse. Both of them were Origin Emperors, but when they saw the red-clothed woman in front of them, they became extremely nervous. When they saw it, they couldn't believe it at all. The woman's aura was so terrifying. Although the woman did not have any malice, her cultivation realm was extremely high. The woman glanced around and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. "Can you stop the Mystic Yuan sect with just the few of you?" the woman said contemptuously. However, it brought them great shock. "Who are you?" Nangong Wuji said in a cold voice. He didn't expect that he would encounter such a terrifying person. He didn't know who had provoked him. If Nangong Wuji knew about this, he would definitely beat that person to death. Nangong Wuji thought to himself. Nangong Wuji, a former member of the Imperial Extreme Palace. 10 years ago, he was injured by the Desolation Sky Scorpion and left the underworld. Hong Shisan, the 19th generation successor of the Whirlwind Staff skill, has fallen to such a state. It's really pitiful. Little girl, even I can't see through you. Chapter 7:15. The King of Fire looked at the people in front of him with interest. Then, his gaze fell on the room where Li Zongjio was cultivating in seclusion. His gaze slightly condensed. At this moment, Nangong Wuji and the others had already felt that the person in front of them had ill intentions. The person's gaze fell on Li Zongjio's position. Could it be that the person was targeting Li Zongjio? This brat had indeed provoked someone he shouldn't have. "Who are you?" Nangong Wuji's face darkened. If the person could clearly know that he was a member of the Imperial Extreme Palace, then the person must not be a simple person. Nangong Wuji could not even think of resisting the other party's imposing manner. This made Nangong Wuji extremely shocked. This person's strength was far above his. If they were to fight, Nangong Wuji might not be a match for the person in front of him. "You're not qualified to know who I am. When Li Zongjio comes out of seclusion, ask him to come and see me. I've already come to see him. This is my sincerity. Otherwise, I'll have to settle accounts with him," the King of Fire said. His actions and eyes were filled with a kind of charm that would make people's hearts flutter. For Nangong Wuji and the others, it was absolutely terrifying that this person's every move could affect their minds. When Nangong Wuji and Hong Shisan finally reacted, they were both covered in cold sweat. When they looked at the King of Fire, they directly disappeared from where they were. To be able to disappear without a trace, the King of Fire's strength was quite terrifying. This person's strength is at least a 7th grade primitive emperor, Hong Shisan said in surprise. His expression was extremely shocked, which really made Hong Shisan feel frightened. There were countless experts hiding in the city, and Hong Shisan was only a 2nd grade primitive emperor, which was nothing in the city. In the eyes of ordinary people, this was already the highest level of cultivation. However, in the eyes of the Origin Emperor realm experts, this was already in existence at the very bottom of the hierarchy. No, at least a 9th grade primitive emperor, Nangong Wuji said in a deep voice. His tone was solemn. Nangong Wuji used to be a 6th grade Origin Emperor, but now he had fallen to such a state. However, it didn't mean that Nangong Wuji hadn't seen any top-notch experts. Nangong Wuji had seen a few 9th grade Origin Emperors before. Those who could reach such a level had a transcendent realm and level. Just like the lady in red, she looked like an ordinary person, but upon closer inspection, only those who were stronger could feel the pressure of such an expert. If an ordinary person stood in front of the woman in red and looked at her, they wouldn't feel any pressure at all. They would just feel like an ordinary person. So strong. Fuck, are they here for revenge? Then I have to pack up and leave. Hong Shi-san originally only wanted to deal with the Mystic Yuan sect, but the woman in red clearly looked more terrifying than the Mystic Yuan sect. She was at least a 9th-grade primitive emperor realm expert. If she was a supreme being expert, then what was there to do? He didn't even need to take revenge. Pack up, Myas. It's just a broken bowl and a broken stick, Nangong Wuji said with jealousy and disdain. It's getting late. I have to go and beg for food, otherwise, I won't have any food to eat today. Hong Shi-san took his bowl and stick and walked out of the manor step by step. The sudden visit of a top-notch expert really frightened these people. However, Doling didn't feel nervous at all. That sister is very beautiful. Why do you all look so scared? Doling looked at the two people curiously and expressed her confusion. Ahem, I almost forgot that you are also a little monster. Nangong Wuji naturally knew that Doling-er's identity was extraordinary, but he didn't expect that her identity was so extraordinary that even the lady in red couldn't see through her. This could only mean that Doling-er was someone who couldn't be offended. Oh, the casino is about to open. I have to hurry, otherwise, there won't be any good seats. Seeing that it was getting late, Doling-er hurriedly went out with the Howling Moon Wolf King. The Howling Moon Wolf King's state gradually recovered after the lady in red left. Otherwise, it would have been cowardly, hiding in a corner and shivering. It was really a disgrace to the Wolf King. Such a thing was really embarrassing for a Wolf King. Moreover, the human world seemed to be too dangerous. The Howling Moon Wolf King counted when he was free. In this small courtyard, there were 4 or 5 people who had the ability to kill him. How could the Howling Moon Wolf King survive in this place? He had no status at all. It seemed that he had to go out and bully some other meta beasts, subdue them, and then catch them and bully them. When the Howling Moon Wolf King first came here, he was very impressive. However, he gradually felt that his physical strength could no longer keep up with the rest of the pack. For the Howling Moon Wolf King, this kind of life was really too miserable. He had to get rid of it as soon as possible. No, this kind of expert actually came here personally. Nangong Wuji finally woke up from the shock of seeing the King of Fire. Now, as he looked at Nangong Wuji, he was extremely shocked. Even such an expert came here personally to find Li Zongjio. Didn't this mean that Li Zongjio was even more important? Just thinking about it made him feel scared. Nangong Wuji's eyes were also filled with extreme shock. He looked in the direction of Li Zongjio. In his heart, he was determined to find out the background of this kid. It seemed that some of the things that happened to this kid were extremely exciting. At this moment, Li Zongjio didn't know that the King of Fire had come to find him personally. Even if he knew, he wouldn't take it seriously. This was because he was refining an extremely important elixir. Even with Li Zongjio's cultivation, it still took him nearly 3 days to refine the elixir. On the 3rd day, in the sky above the White Deer Manor, a terrifying thundercloud had already appeared and was brewing. Hong Shi-san also stuck his head out of the tree. It was sunny just now. Why is it so dark all of a sudden? Damn, it's going to be thunder. Hong Shi-san exclaimed when he saw the dark cloud in the sky and jumped down from the tree. Now, Hong Shi-san would sleep until noon every day. Then, he would go out to beg for food in the afternoon and come back in the evening. It seemed that he was very busy. Living on top of this treehouse was also shamelessly staying here. No matter how Nangong Wuji urged him, he couldn't drive him away. In addition to practicing martial arts, Nangong Wuji was also designing the open space beside the treehouse. As a former master architect, Nangong Wuji's craftsmanship had been neglected for many years. Now that he picked it up again, he needed to put in a lot of effort. The thundercloud doesn't look like it's going to rain. It looks like it's going to eat people. Nangong Wuji was holding a pen and a carving knife. When he raised his head and looked at the dark cloud, he was also surprised. He looked at the sky and didn't see such dark clouds. It was obvious that this dark cloud had come specifically for them. No, to be precise, it was coming for Li Zongjio, who was in seclusion. Chapter 716. At this moment, almost everyone in Royal City could see the emergence of this thundercloud. the terrifying power that seeped out of the terrifying thundercloud. It really made people break out in cold sweat. They were also deeply aware of the terrifying power of the thundercloud. In the Mirror Moon Villa, Master Jingyue was teaching Kun Arashir the use of mental energy. When she discovered that Kun Arashi's mental energy was actually very special, she was unusually surprised and immediately became interested in teaching him. Therefore, Kun Arashir, who had just escaped from Sun Yu's Sea of Suffering, fell into Master Jinyue's fire pit again. This situation was naturally painful and joyous for Kun Arashir. This was a good opportunity to learn new skills. Given Master Jinyue's status, ordinary people would not have such luck and opportunities. Therefore, Kun Arashir also treasured this opportunity very much. When she sensed the appearance of the thundercloud in the sky, Master Jinyue also cast a look of horror. This is a pill lightning cloud. Master Jinyue's mental energy sensed that the power of this pill lightning was at least grade 6 or above. Grade 6 pill lightning. Who can attract such a pill lightning? Master Jinyue was not the only one. Many experts in the city also noticed Li Zongjio's situation. The intelligence agencies also began to work quickly. During this process, they also reported Li Zongjio's situation one by one. Attracting a grade 6 pill lightning, regardless of whether it was a success or failure, meant that a grade 6 alchemist had appeared. It's Li Zongjio? It's Li Zongjio again. Li Zongjio has broken through to become a grade 6 alchemist. A grade 6 alchemist. How is that kid possible? Qian Wuji and the rest, who were still lingering in Royal City, immediately went to investigate when they sensed the appearance of the grade 6 pill lightning. When they found out that the person who had attracted the pill lightning was most likely Li Zongjio, they could not help but feel a sense of dread. One must know that just a second ago, Qian Wuji had gathered a group of his scoundrel friends and was preparing to attack Li Zongjio. At the very least, he had to take revenge for the past. That was why Qian Wuji was so shocked. Damn it. It's best if he gets struck by lightning. Qian Wuji thought to himself. Within the heavenly stellar medicine manor, both Elder Bai Ku and Elder Sui Rong were shocked when they sensed the terrifying power. This is the power of a grade 6 pill lightning, heavenly pill pavilion. Su Hong was currently handing over some matters to a few big shots from the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. This was because there would be an important competition at the beginning of spring next year. Currently, these big shots were making preparations. In this competition, they wanted to completely display the name of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion in the Saint Flame Empire. Not only within the borders of the Saint Flame Empire, but it would also have an absolute influence on the entire mainland. What is that? One of the big shots was the first to sense the existence of the pill lightning. He stood up and walked out of the window. At first, he couldn't sense it clearly, but later, he could clearly see that it was a pill lightning. And it was a grade 6 pill lightning. The appearance of this pill lightning immediately caused the hearts of the big shots to tremble. A grade 6 alchemist. In my city, there's actually a 6th grade alchemist. Su Hong, who is this person? The big shot said directly. At this moment, Su Hong was also dumbfounded. When did this happen? A grade 6 alchemist was refining pills. Now, there were less than 10 grade 6 alchemists in the city. Half of them were in seclusion. 2 of them were in the palace, and 1 of them didn't make a move easily. He had retired from Jianghu for many years to recuperate. There was also the master of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. He had been wandering outside these years, and there was no trace of him. Other than that, there were no other grade 6 alchemists. There was also Tsang Chu from the Spirit Valley sect. That old guy was taken away by the people of the Spirit Valley sect. It was said that they paid a great price. Now, the Longevity Pavilion was also making trouble for the Spirit Valley sect. The value of a grade 6 alchemist was comparable to 10 Yuan Emperor experts. If they could find a wild grade 6 alchemist and directly recruit him to the Heavenly Pill Pavilion, it would be a very good thing for the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. Although the old master of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion was a grade 6 alchemist, he hadn't shown up for a long time. His condition was not very good. If something happened, it would lead to a shortage of new alchemists. wouldn't the problem be serious? Therefore, it was necessary to find a new grade 6 alchemist to take charge of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. This, just when Su Hong himself was at a loss, Su Sha suddenly barged in. Elders, Deputy Pavilion Master, a grade 6 pill lightning has appeared in the city. According to the information, this alchemist is most likely the Imperial alchemist, Li Zongjio. Su Sha appeared at the door and said in surprise. For Su Sha, this was something that she couldn't believe, but the information showed it. The place where the pill lightning appeared was the Bailu Manor where Li Zongjio was. After knowing that it was Li Zongjio, Su Sha didn't care who was in the meeting and directly rushed in. When she saw that the Vice Pavilion Master had personally come to the meeting, Su Sha knew that she was done for. Nonsense, who let you in? Get out. Su Hong immediately shouted in a low voice. After all, the Heavenly Pill Pavilion belonged to the Imperial Court. In the Heavenly Pill Pavilion, there was a strict system. If she barged in casually, she might be treated as an assassin and killed directly. Su Sha was about to leave and escape, but the Deputy Pavilion Master waved his hand. You just said, who is this grade 6 alchemist? The Deputy Pavilion Master asked very seriously. Su Sha couldn't help but feel nervous. She had made a big mistake by barging in rashly today. She didn't want to bring any trouble to her grandfather. You don't have to worry. It's Li Zongjio. It must be him. The Deputy Pavilion Master looked at Su Hong, and Su Hong quickly said, this person is a student of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Some time ago, he won first place in the exchange competition between the 3 major alchemy academies and obtained an alchemist qualification certificate. It's all him. Su Hong, I don't care what methods you use, you must rope this person into our Heavenly Pill Pavilion. Su Hong's face was naturally filled with a trace of surprise. No matter what methods you use, the weight of this sentence was quite heavy. Yes, Deputy Pavilion Master. Su Hong quickly agreed. Soon after, he began to make preparations. No matter how one put it, this Pill Lightning Grand Banquet was definitely not to be missed. It was likely that there were many pairs of eyes within the city staring at Li Zongjio. As long as Li Zongjio appeared, there would definitely be a situation where everyone would fight over him. Chapter 717. At this moment, Li Zongjio was not disturbed by the outside world. When Nangong Wuji and the others sensed the appearance of the thunderclouds, they had already strengthened their defenses. During this process, they also prevented some people from taking advantage of the chaos to carry out some destructive actions. Hong Shersan also changed his usual mischievous smile and watched from a high place. Lu Wenshan, who was in the stable, personally felt the appearance of the pill lightning in front of him. He could barely open his eyes as the lightning flickered. However, Lu Wenshan's face was full of envy and admiration. This realm was also what Lu Wenshan was thinking. If he was the one facing the pill lightning today, how wonderful would it be? Given Li Zongjio's strength, today's pill lightning was enough to wake some people up. After all, there would always be some people who would think that Li Zongjio was just a young man who could be casually ignored. In fact, Li Zongjio's strength was there for all to see. A grade 6 alchemy master was enough to make a colossus like the Imperial Court pay attention to him. After all, if he was an primitive emperor expert, some people might have scruples about his previous background and who he had offended before running away. However, it was different for a grade 6 alchemy master. It did not matter who he had offended. As long as a grade 6 alchemy master came to seek refuge, no matter the price, they would have to make him stay. This was how strong and firm they were. It was absolutely impossible for a grade 6 alchemy master to seek refuge and then drive him out. Such a scene would definitely not occur. From now on, the people of Sacred Flame Royal City would also recognize the value of Li Zongjio. They would clearly realize the position that Li Zongjio could stand in. He was so arrogant and domineering. No wonder he's so young and frivolous. He's so capable. Lu Wenshan exclaimed. Tian Fei, who was sitting with Lu Wenshan, was also dumbfounded. Did he hear wrongly? A grade 6 alchemy master? The young master was a grade 6 alchemy master? Li Zongjio's strength was simply too terrifying. In fact, it had already reached a terrifying level. It was unbelievable. Naturally, it wouldn't be so simple. Everything Li Zongjio had experienced was equivalent to his cultivation. It had always been like this. These people could see how strong Li Zongjio's external cultivation was, but they didn't know what Li Zongjio had experienced. They could only treat it as Li Zongjio's demonic talent. From now on, another giant would definitely appear in Saint Flame Royal City. He did not look down on Li Zongjio because of his age. With Li Zongjio's strength, he was completely capable of standing on equal footing with the other big shots in the city. In the secret chamber, Li Zongjio stared intently at the Azura cauldron in front of him. With the strength of the Azura cauldron, it naturally had no problem withstanding the power of the grade 6 elixir. However, Li Zongjio felt that something was wrong. There seemed to be a wisp of remnant soul in the Azura cauldron, causing Li Zongjio to be unable to condense the elixir. How dare you compete with me for the elixir? How presumptuous! Li Zongjio slapped the Azura cauldron in front of him, and his mental strength immediately rushed into the Azura cauldron. When Li Zongjio's mental strength opened up in the Azura cauldron, the flames that filled the sky gradually appeared in front of Li Zongjio. Within the endless flames, there was a golden elixir that was brewing. However, it had not taken the final step. This was the longevity myriad yuan elixir that Li Zongjio had painstakingly refined. From the longevity myriad yuan elixir, there was a surging life force. With the spread of this life force, the power that appeared would be coveted by any Origin Emperor powerhouse. This was a kind of quantitative change that led to qualitative change. Come out! Li Zongjio's mental strength instantly swept through the flames in front of him like a storm. Behind him, the blood dragon was hovering. After all, the thing he was facing was not ordinary, and he could not be too careless. Although Li Zongjio did not know the situation in front of him, Li Zongjio could feel that the existence of this thing must be very strong. I didn't expect that such a small place could have such a method of refining elixir. Thanks to this elixir, it actually woke me up. An aged voice whizzed out from within the flames. Li Zongjio's heart sank a little when he heard it. This was because it was just a voice, but it was as if the divine might of the heavens had descended. You're quite capable. Li Zongjio felt the pressure descending. The surrounding flames that originally belonged to Li Zongjio were actually mobilized by him at this moment. Boom! It was as if a heavenly aura had forced the surrounding flames away. Through the flickering flames, Li Zongjio also saw a dark shadow coming towards Li Zongjio. The blood dragon roared, turned around, and blasted forward. Where did this reptile come from? Get lost. Immediately, a palm print, like the Buddha's Vajra, sent the blood dragon flying. Boom! The powerful blood dragon did not even engage in battle with the enemy before it was sent flying by the palm. After it fell to the ground, its body swayed, as if it would disappear at any moment. When Li Zongjio saw this move, he was slightly surprised. The power of this move looked extremely extraordinary. Such a move was something that even Li Zongjio had never seen before, so he was naturally surprised. However, when the person rushed in front of him, a terrifying devouring force attacked, as if it was about to devour Li Zongjio. Immediately, Li Zongjio reacted quickly. Desolate Heaven Essence. It was an ordinary swing of the stick, but it made the black shadow hurriedly retreat, quickly retreating to the rear. Damn it! How did you get such a divine item? The person's voice suddenly became sharp. Although it had only brushed past the black shadow, it seemed to have caused considerable damage to the latter. Li Zongjio did not expect that the Desolate Heaven Essence would have such a miraculous effect on this person. There are many things that you can't imagine, Li Zongjio said disdainfully. Immediately, the yuan beads in his body began to circulate rapidly. The blood dragon soul, which had been dispirited, also became excited. Blood soul hell. When he used the Hell Prajna technique, the boundless power instantly trapped the black shadow. Boom! The black shadow was immediately alarmed. Small world technique? This is impossible! The black shadow shouted in excitement. However, after shouting, the black shadow heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, this wasn't the legendary small world technique, even though it was similar in form. However, the difference in power was like heaven and earth. Small world technique? They were in Li Zongjiu's blood soul hell. Therefore, no matter what the shadow did or said, it would be difficult for it to escape Li Zongjiu's eyes. From the beginning, Li Zongjiu felt that the person in front of him was somewhat strange. There was even a gap between their cultivation techniques. Most importantly, no matter who became like this, they had probably disappeared long ago. How could the person in front of him live until now with the power of a remnant soul? What exactly are you? Li Zongjiu said to the black shadow in front of him. The black shadow looked like a ghost. Between the top and bottom, only the head was clear. The lower the head, the more transparent it became. The legs were already in a state where they could not be seen. This appearance was extremely interesting. What am I? If you dared to say such words to me 200 years ago, you would have been a pile of minced meat. The person's tone was not small. Li Zongjiu could not help but sneer. You really think highly of yourself. Since you are unwilling to speak, there is no point in keeping you alive. Li Zongjiu said as he raised the desolate heaven essence in his hand. He looked like he was about to hit the black shadow. However, the black soul screamed at this moment. Wait. Both of his hands were raised in front of his body, as if he was afraid that Li Zongjiu's staff would come down and shatter his soul. Young man, for you to have such a cultivation level at such a young age, I will take you in as my disciple on account of your talent. The black soul boasted shamelessly, minding his own business. Following that, he even took the initiative to think about what to prepare for the apprenticeship ceremony. This surprised Li Zongjiu. Could it be that the self-righteous cultivation of people nowadays had already reached such a level? It was an eye-opener for Li Zongjiu. According to the rules of the apprenticeship ceremony, you need to prepare 500 virgin boys and 500 virgin girls for me. However, time is tight now, so you can just offer this golden core to me. The black soul said. Li Zongjiu adjusted his body. When he saw the black soul's actions, he smashed the desolate heaven essence in his hand at the black soul's head. What are you doing? The black soul shrieked as it was instantly shattered by the power of the desolate heaven essence. When Li Zongjiu saw the drifting energy, he couldn't help but be moved. Immediately his mental strength spread out and collected the shattering power of the black soul. Letting this guy talk so much nonsense had already delayed Li Zongjiu for a long time. Li Zongjiu didn't come here to listen to this guy's stories. With such a cowardly attitude, Li Zongjiu couldn't be bothered to say more. After collecting the surrounding soul fragments, Li Zongjiu's mental strength moved and he left the Azura Cauldron world. The elixir pill was still being baked outside. The use of these soul fragments was to allow Li Zongjiu to know the memories within the fragments after refining them in the future. Compared to directly interrogating, it was naturally easier. When it came to doing things, he was never one to dawdle. Prepare to receive the power of the pill lightning. Li Zongjiu's body returned to normal. Without the interference of the mysterious black soul, Li Zongjiu began his final action. Immediately, with a slap of his hand, the medicine cauldron was sent flying. Then, Li Zongjiu's body abruptly flew towards the barren mountain that belonged to him. This barren mountain was bought by Li Zongjiu previously under the order of someone. Now, this barren mountain was close to 1,000 mu in size. For Li Zongjiu, it was already enough. Boom! Li Zongjiu's body had just landed when the thunderclouds stopped brewing. Instead, it directly descended from the sky like a furious dragon descending to the world. The purple lightning struck Li Zongjiu's Azura Cauldron. Li Zongjiu's body also endured the terrifying power of the lightning. Crackle! Immediately, the power of the lightning spread over Li Zongjiu's body. However, Li Zongjiu was able to quickly refine this power. Ancient golden tyrant body art. This elemental art circulated crazily in his body, rapidly digesting the power of the lightning around his body. Comfortable. For ordinary people, this pill lightning was as terrifying as the god of death. However, for Li Zongjiu, this pill lightning was the best thing to temper his body. The power of this pill lightning was not too strong. After all, it was just the pill lightning of a beginner grade 6 elixir. When it reached the intermediate grade 6 and advanced grade 6 elixir, it would be truly terrifying. When a grade 8 pill lightning appeared, it could already form a kind of energy that could destroy heaven and earth. Even a part of its power poured into this barren mountain. Immediately, the barren mountain rocks that they were sitting on were forcefully tempered. Some of the originally useless rocks and yellow soil also possessed a special power at this moment. A total of 7 pill lightning bolts fell in succession. One after another, they fell on Li Zongjiu's body. When the pill lightning dissipated, many experts appeared in the vicinity of this barren mountain. However, with Nangong Wuji, Hong San, and the others here, they naturally would not act rashly. It's done. The 10,000 yuan longevity elixir. Li Zongjiu's eyes revealed a trace of joy. After all, it took a lot of effort to refine this elixir. When a dazzling golden elixir appeared in front of his eyes, Li Zongjiu's face revealed a smile. Li Zongjiu, you killed my Mystic Yuan sect's disciple. Today, my Mystic Yuan sect will carry out the order to kill you. A rough voice suddenly reverberated throughout the heavens and earth. Chapter 7:18. A thunderous sound was heard. A sound that was far more violent than the sound of thunder came from afar. 7 figures swiftly charged over from the horizon in front of his eyes. These 7 figures were riding on raging lightning bolts. Hong San, who was at the side, immediately became agitated when he saw the surging lightning bolts appear. These damned things really took the initiative to come to me. Hong San immediately stomped the crutch in his hand on the ground, and an extremely terrifying aura rushed towards the 7 figures. Bastards of the Xinyuan sect, your grandfather is here. Hong San's Yuan Emperor aura spread out. Those who had gathered around to join in the fun also felt the terrifying murderous aura coming from Hong San. This old thing. Nangong Wuji stomped his foot. Couldn't he just bear with it and wait for a while before launching a sneak attack? Now that he had rushed out, what was the meaning of this? However, these people weren't a threat to Nangong Wuji and the others at all. The people who had come from the Xinyuan sect were a supervisor and 6 Xinyuan sect law enforcement guards. Judging from their attire, the person who had come was a law enforcement guard in black from the Xinyuan sect. Other than the supervisor in white and the law enforcement guard in black, who were Yuan emperors, the other 5 people were only at the peak of the Yuan monarch realm. The 7 of them were originally very aggressive and were ready to take down Li Zongjiu in one go. After all, this kid had just displayed the strength of a grade 6 alchemist. If they did not take him down now, things would become even more miserable and complicated. This was because the appearance of a grade 6 alchemist would definitely make some forces go crazy. They would even be willing to face the pressure of the Xinyuan sect to ensure the safety of Li Zongjiu. In this way, it would not be easy to kill Li Zongjiu. Although the Xinyuan sect was the biggest sect in the Tianyuan province, its influence was limited after all. A strong dragon could not defeat a snake in its own territory. Once there was a conflict, it would naturally be difficult to settle it. It was already a very risky move for them to cross the border of a province to hunt Wu Qi down. The Xinyuan sect also had its own enemies. If a large number of experts were sent out, the sect would be empty. They might be ambushed. Although the sect wouldn't be destroyed, it wouldn't be a problem for them to cause some damage to the sect. However, the sudden appearance of 2 primitive emperors shocked the Mystic Yuan sect and the others. The supervisor of the Mystic Yuan sect, Bai Jinghen, and the black-clothed law enforcement officer, Wei Xiongli. Behind him were 5 white-robed law enforcers, all of whom were peak Yuan monarchs. Even the 4 great families of the city might not be able to resist such a lineup easily. They would have to join forces at the very least. However, when they were trying to capture Li Zongjiu, they actually encountered such a tough opponent, which surprised the 2 of them. This has nothing to do with you. It's a grudge between the Xinyuan sect and Li Zongjiu. Do the 2 of you want to be enemies with the Xinyuan sect? Bai Jinghen said coldly. The 9 figures rose into the air and faced each other. However, The aura of Nangong Wuji and Nangong Wui was not inferior to Bai Jinghen and the others. A woo! The roar of the howling moon wolf king was heard from afar. Then, like a gust of wind, it brought Dou Ling and soared into the sky. They came to a position next to Nangong Wuji. Staring at the menacing people in front of her, Dou Ling's big, watery eyes suddenly became fierce. Are these people here to fight? Girls, stay back. Be careful. Nangong Wuji said hurriedly. Why would a little girl like her be needed for this kind of thing? If that was the case, it would be too embarrassing for them. Hong Shishan looked at Bai Wuheng in front of him. Hey, do you think this is the Tianyuan province? What is the Xinyuan sect? Hong Shishan said disdainfully. Although Hong Shishan's main enemy was the sect master of the Xinyuan sect, Hong Shishan did not mind killing a few of these lackeys who bullied others and looked down on others. He wanted to collect some interest first. You're courting death. Xiong Lei was about to rush up. He was wearing a pair of iron finger gloves and his wrists were as thick as an ordinary person's thigh. He looked extremely fierce. However, when Xiong Lei was about to attack, he saw the crutch in Hong Shishan's hand. You're Hong Shishan. Xiong Lei recognized the crutch. He immediately said in surprise. Years ago, this crutch killed an elder of the Xinyuan sect. It could be said that it was a very serious incident that happened in the Xinyuan sect. Looking at Hong Shishan's appearance now, although his face was full of stubble, his eyes were full of hatred. It could be more or less recognized that the person in front of him was Hong Shishan, who was hunted down by the Xinyuan sect in the past. Since you still recognize your grandfather, why don't you kneel down and kowtow to him? Hong Shishan said. He was not in a hurry to take action. In any case, there would be a battle sooner or later. Today, these people obviously wanted to launch a sneak attack on Li Zongjio. All he needed to do was to block these people and wait for Li Zongjio to recover. Everyone, this is the sacred Flame Royal City. You can't mess around here. Unknowingly, two black-clothed and golden-armored figures appeared not far away from them. Seeing the two men's attire and the looming gold medal on their waists, these people were slightly shocked. Top secret guards. The Shengyan dynasty was the fiercest and most powerful organization. The outside world did not know how many experts there were in this organization. This was because every time there was an enemy that could not be dealt with, a more powerful figure would appear among the top secret guards to solve the problem. Later on, the top secret guard had become an extremely powerful deterrent. One time, they had captured a wanted criminal who had killed dozens of people. This person was also the young lord of a first-class sect. However, on that day, the top secret guard had only dispatched 2 people and they had swaggered the wanted criminal away from the first-class sect. Otherwise, this first-rate sect would only end up being annihilated. Bai Jingheng saw the appearance of the 2 top secret guards. He knew that there was something fishy going on. The top secret guards were in such a hurry that there must be someone behind them. Today, they wanted to take Li Zongjio's life, but they had already missed the opportunity. He exchanged a glance with Xiong Lei. He had already made up his mind to leave now and make a decision later. We were too impulsive. However, the Mystic Yuan sect will not let him off easily for killing our men. Tell Li Zongjio to wash his neck and wait for us. As Xiong Lei spoke, he sounded like a ferocious lion roaring in a low voice, which was very shocking. Nangong Wuji and Hong Shishan did not pursue the matter. After all, the other party outnumbered them. If a fight really broke out, the odds of victory would not be high. Furthermore, the 5 peak Yuan monarchs were not to be trifled with. If they were in their Yuan spirit state, their destructive power would be boundless. Let's go! Xiong Lei waved his hand and prepared to leave with his men. However, at that moment, a voice was heard from the top of the barren mountain. You came to my private territory and let out a few farts. How can I, Li Zongjio, continue to show my face if the world finds out? Chapter 719. As soon as he said that, a shadow came from the top of the mountain. Li Zongjio tapped his feet lightly and his figure appeared in front of everyone. Many people who had never seen Li Zongjio before were trying their best to remember Li Zongjio's appearance. This was a 6th-grade alchemist who was extremely popular in the city. Even if they couldn't make friends with him, they couldn't afford to offend him. Facing an alchemist, there was such pressure. Li Zongjio's figure appeared at an extremely fast speed. Even the primitive emperors couldn't see Li Zongjio's movements clearly. The 2 top-secret guards looked at Li Zongjio. Private territory? This was what they were concerned about. If this was a private property, then some of the fierce fights would have nothing to do with them. In Royal City, fighting and even any violent incidents were prohibited. Once discovered, it would be strictly investigated. However, there were too many grudges in Jianghu. It wasn't easy to deal with all of them. Violent incidents also happened from time to time. There was also a very special rule. If you trespassed into other people's private territory and were beaten to death, the imperial court wouldn't pursue the matter. After all, if you went to provoke them, the people in Jianghu wouldn't follow so many rules. You could bring people to kill people in other people's families, but the range of activity must be within the private territory. Once others ran to the main street, you couldn't do anything. If you did, it would be investigated and you would bear the crime of murder. The consequences were quite serious. Although this place was a barren mountain, it had become Li Zongjio's private property. It had been bought by Li Zongjio. Therefore, it wouldn't be a problem for Li Zongjio to kill the people in front of him. The 2 top-secret guards seemed to have discussed for a while before they left. When there was no murder, there was no need for the top-secret guard to show up. Only when there was a problem would the top-secret guard appear to solve it. Today, he had received special instructions from someone to protect Li Zongjio. But now, it seemed that they were no longer needed. Bai Jingheng and Xiong Lei grinned sinisterly when they saw the 2 top-secret guards leave. They were simply digging their own graves. Initially, the Mystic Yuan sect did not want to break the rules. However, now that Li Zongjio had taken the initiative to jump out and seek death, they could not be blamed for being cruel. You must be Li Zongjio. Are you going to come with us yourself, or do you want us to break your legs and take you away? Xiong Lei laughed coldly. At the same time, he touched the gloves in his hands. When he looked at Li Zongjio, he seemed to be imagining the scene of Li Zongjio being beaten to a pulp. Li brat, these people are not simple, Nangong Wuji said in a deep voice. Li Zongjio had used some unknown method to kill Xiao Yuan and the others that day. However, the strength of these people was not simple. They were not as simple as Xiao Yuan. These people were specialized in carrying out some ferocious missions, facing extremely ferocious characters. Their combat experience was definitely not comparable to trash like Xiao Yuan. Even the strength of the 5 white-clothed law enforcement guards was enough to kill Xiao Yuan easily. The level of the people they were facing now was not the same. You are quite confident. You are all from the Mystic Yuan sect, right? It just so happens that my barren mountain needs some blood to water it. I can only ask you for help. Li Zongjio said immediately. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure charged towards Xiong Lei. Boom! Li Zongjio's movement was extremely fast. However, Xiong Lei and the others were not ordinary people. Moreover, the gap between Li Zongjio and Li Zongjio's realm was relatively large. When Xiong Lei saw that Li Zongjio was attacking him, the corners of his mouth curved into a sneer. You are really overestimating yourself. The 5 of you, take care of those 2. Leave him to me. Xiong Lei also made a solemn vow. He rolled up his sleeves and rushed towards Li Zongjio. In Xiong Lei's eyes, Li Zongjio was just a jumping clown. Facing Li Zongjio who was rushing towards him, Xiong Lei directly raised his fist. Boom! The air seemed to be compressed by Xiong Lei's strength. He directly pressed Li Zongjio's body onto his fist. When he was about to kill Li Zongjio with a punch, he suddenly realized that Li Zongjio's body had disappeared. Boom! A terrifying force directly penetrated Li Zongjio's afterimage and spread 100 meters away. The surging fist aura was like boiling magma. It was as if it was going to roast the sky. He escaped really fast. Heaven and earth overturning fist. Xiong Lei immediately waved his fist around him. Immediately, a terrifying force filled the air. As the surroundings trembled, it forced a figure in front of him. It was as if the figure was about to be crushed by this force. Desolate heaven essence, break for me. Li Zongjio used the hidden dragon art under his feet. His body entered an ethereal state and reached the extreme. His figure appeared and outlined a state of Mount Sumeru in the sky. The formless space became Li Zongjio's stepping stone and was also an excellent hiding place. Boom! The desolate heaven essence carried the heaven-crushing force. It was like a 10,000-foot tall mountain sweeping across. The aura of the mountain blocked all the fists that were constantly thundering out, easily dispersing all the power. Even Xiong Lei's eyes revealed a trace of astonishment. Good weapon, but this weapon is not something you can control. Overlord's cauldron. A dazzling flame immediately emerged from Xiong Lei's body. Behind Xiong Lei, a gigantic flaming golden tortoise appeared. The golden tortoise stood on its feet and bravely used its hands to block the attack. This action immediately formed a terrifying aura. It was as if he had easily resolved the might of the thousands of mountains on Li Zongjio's body, but in fact, Xiong Lei had overestimated his own strength and underestimated the power of the desolate heaven essence. When the pair of tortoise palms landed on the aura formed by the desolate heaven essence, they began to be crushed. Xiong Lei's body was sent flying by the force. Puff! Xiong Lei spat out a mouthful of blood, and then his body was sent flying backwards. His body fell from the sky and smashed into the barren mountain. Oh my God, only one move? Hong Shi-san was extremely shocked when he saw this scene. He could not believe his eyes. This scene was simply too exciting. The weapon in Li Zongjio's hand was simply a divine weapon. A casual wave of the weapon was enough to cripple Xiong Lei? You're courting death. Immediately, the law enforcers behind him rushed forward. The 5 of them took the lead and rushed towards Li Zongjio. When the 5 of them moved, Hong Shi-san did not hesitate. He held the seemingly old crutch in his hand and enveloped the 5 of them with his aura. You people, I already said that I don't need your help. Hong Shi-san said faintly, blocking the people in front of him. Form the annihilation array. One of them said. The 4 people behind him immediately surrounded Hong Shi-san. They took out their swords and pointed them at Hong Shi-san. It's still the same old trick. Hong Shi-san was no stranger to the annihilation array. He did not expect that after so many years, these people had not made any progress. You and I don't need to fight. Nangong Wuji looked at Bai Jinghen and said, Don't force me to hit you. Bai Jinghen looked arrogant and proud, which was exactly what Nangong Wuji hated the most. If he was still at the peak of his cultivation, he would not have waited for these people to act arrogantly in front of him. If he did not speak, he would have slapped each of them if they dared to speak. If it was 10 years ago, Nangong Wuji would be more arrogant than Li Zongjio. Offend the Mystic Yuan sect for this brat? Nangong Wuji, do you think that the Imperial Extreme Hall, which you rely on, will help you? You think I need the Imperial Palace to fight you? You think too highly of yourself. I advise you to get lost quickly, that little brat will really kill you. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.